Okay, well, first of all, welcome to both of you. Thank you for agreeing to do this. I
Yeah,
know.
lest anyone have any confusion about this. This is all Wick's fault.
Oh yeah, I invited them both to be here. So this is on me. I am responsible for whatever happens. So today we're gonna have just a discussion about what is a woman. It's a broad topic. I'm sure we'll get into other areas of it. But just some ground rules here. We are going to stick mainly on topic. It can get a little tangential, but we're not going to go towards outside dramas or anything like that. That's not the purpose of what we're doing today.
Coward.
Um, no slurs, nothing tossed. That's nothing that's going to get me demonetized. But other than that,
What are we on? Are we on Twitch?
we are on Twitch and YouTube right now. So.
Okay, Twitch is really weird about gender topics, so you might want to just single stream.
I understand. I accept the risk. Just no slurs is what I'm asking, right? So no, don't drop the T slur, the F slur, none of that. Okay.
Sure, I got banned for 2 weeks for saying that I don't think a trans woman is a woman, though, and that's the whole debate. So you
Is
might
it?
want to be
I
careful.
believe the debate by your request is what is a woman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm.
I wanted it to be our trans women. That was your choice. I agree. It's a better title, but
Well, we'll get into it. We're
gonna debate the title first.
Yeah. But yeah. Sorry. Give me a moment. Welcome one and all to WhickTV, cross-ideological platform where we bring together people with opposing viewpoints and we discuss topics from the political to the cultural, from the silly to the serious. Today, the question is, what is a woman? We're going to allow both of these individuals brief opening statements, and then we're just going to get into it. And with that, on with the show. First of all, any questions before we begin? Any other things that you guys want to know? Any questions about format?
yeah, define brief. I don't think we agreed on a time, but I anticipate I'll need about between 5 and 10 minutes.
For your opening statement?
Yeah. Heady topic.
Oh no!
I sent it to you.
You sent it, but that's not a.
I sent it to you in advance. You approved it.
Yeah, but that's not 5 minutes. If it takes you 5 minutes to read that, something has gone wrong.
I'll read quickly.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh God. Okay. Fine. We'll start with you, and then we'll allow 𝕼𝖍𝖏 to go. Go ahead.
No, I think Lav should go first.
You can think whatever you want. I flipped a coin
I think it's unfair to Lav to make her wait through my opening statement. Let me poison the well.
Go first. Go first.
Start us off.
Very well.
Come on,
First
King.
of all,
You got this.
What is a woman? Ladies first.
Touche. Thank you, Lav, for not ducking out. Thank you, Wick, for making me go through this. Fuck you. To begin, I want to highlight that even the very framing of this debate, as Lav predicted, is conceptually fraught. The question we are supposedly debating tonight is, what is a woman? I take this question to mean what is it that the word woman identifies? A sex, a gender, a set of bodily characteristics, a social role? If we proceed etymologically, the word woman as we pronounce it today comes from the Old English word wifmin, I think I'm pronouncing that right, literally wife man or female servant. We of course refer to the male in heterosexual relationships as either simply the man or husband, meaning quite literally the master of the house. You can already see the problem with the question, what is a woman, in that it comes to us not as a simple designator of a visual archetype, a human possessing breasts and a vulva as opposed to a penis and testes, but with heterosexuality baked in. The word woman is a modification of man, taken to be a sort of universal person to whom she is but secondary and created as a help, as in the biblical account of Eve's creation. If woman means anything beyond a particular social context, one in which one's place within a rigidly heterosexual system is constitutive of one's identity, then it cannot bear any relation to this. We should not like to say outside of heterosexual patriarchal culture that women as a category do not exist. By woman, we want to identify something more universal as man in the aforementioned etymological account. Something that can describe a type of person present within all cultures, both patriarchal, matriarchal, heteronormative, and those that recognize a wider array of social roles and sexualities. Where to find this universal type? I argue that there isn't one, but let's run down the list. As the account just given indicates, it is not to be found in some common experience, because no common experience exists. Experience varies widely across cultures and individuals. Even with the example just given, not even women under heteropatriarchal models were understood straightforwardly. Aristotle's account of men and women as sharing the same essence yet differing as an accident of matter springs to mind. It is also therefore not to be found in a performative social role as Judith Butler understands it, since woman does not describe a universal category. It quite simply is the performance of a specific role within or derived from a specifically heterosexual and patriarchal linguistic structure that only recognizes woman by opposition to man and retroactively treats sex as the immutable cause of the characteristics this heterosexual frame imposes on subjects. Excuse me. Nor is it to be found in a type of body. Not only do amputees, people with birth defects, and hermaphrodites exist in our world, there is, for instance, a condition called Klinefelter syndrome, in which cis men with penises, testes, no ovaries, and no breasts nonetheless have two X chromosomes. There are likewise cis women with both X and Y chromosomes who have breasts, vulvas, and ovaries. This may happen to girls with androgen sensitivity syndrome. And thus woman as a universal category is not even to be found in sex, which is itself gendered by a hegemonic heterosexuality, which insists that binary sex is what governs behavior. Woman is an identity constructed within a very specific heteronormative framework. However, constructed does not mean invalid or less real. It simply emphasizes that one's identity is as much a part of one's contingent situation as one's location in time and space. Trans women, therefore, are women. All gender may be an unnatural artifice, but then so are we. Thus, if someone is so constituted that their identity is that of a man or a woman, even against the pressures of an enforced heteronormativity and heterosexuality which wants to conflate sex, gender, and desire altogether, so that not only physical characteristics but sexual orientations become associated with one gender or the other within a binary, as for instance in the psychological theory of Richard von Krafft-Ebing, who described homosexual men as having their object of sexual desire inverted from that appropriate to men, then if the shoe fits, wear it. Thank you.
Okay. Wow.
And the shoe is a high.
You cut out there, but I'm sure what you said was very funny.
It was a high heel, I assume. Right.
And the shoe, the shoe is a high heel.
You mean the form of footwear traditionally associated with the male members of the European royalty?
Yeah. That was a little long-winded, buddy. Anyway.
That's how I roll.
So I think, and I'm here to say, that a woman is an adult
First
female,
questionable statement.
an adult human female. A female is the sex that holds the larger sex gamete. Feminists and women have fought for women to remain a protected sex class, a material reality and not an idea or postmodernist, post-constructualism construct. I suspect this debate will go a few places in terms of rhetoric, and we will talk about gender and its relation to the sex body. Gender identity definitions are completely circular or reliant on gender-based stereotypes. I want to decimate gender roles, obviously. Men have attributed to themselves the prototype of what it means to be human, positioning women as their inferior. Women as a gender is a role that revolves around masochism, self-hatred, passivity. I resent I am to be seen as fragile, submissive, pink, and ditzy as a woman. I resent that I must be a hole for fucking, a mouth for fucking, and an ass for fucking, a nurse, a saint, a mother, an object, that my hair has to be long, my legs shaved, my eyelashes always at the feminine length, even when I am sick, even when I am dying to be a woman. I will not be pushed into these things to affirm my spot in my own sex class or protected class, and when a male does these things, it should not give him access to my bathroom, my sports, my prisons, my crisis centers, my affirmative action opportunities, and my body in a medical setting, and the right to call himself a woman in anything other than fictitious play pretend. I'm arguing as a feminist. Feminism is about the liberation of the female sex. I resent the idea women are defined by their performance of femininity, or that sex-based oppression is entirely hypothetical and women can identify out of experiencing it, and that men can identify into experiencing it.
Okay, and with that, I guess we'll open it up. I will start with a question, if I may, to both of you. And this is something that President Sunday mentioned in his opening statement. I'm curious if you agree, Lav. He said that there is no such thing as a shared female or woman experience. Do we think that's true?
No.
Why not? Can you elaborate a little bit?
I think all things that women share, that they are male. So it's the biological reality of being female. Whether or not
I didn't. Can you restate? I didn't catch that last thing. What did you say exactly?
The biological reality of being female.
Of being female. Sorry, I just heard the biological reality of male. Your audio is just dipping a little bit from time to time. Just
that's really annoying. Is that a me problem? Are you hearing that also, Wick?
Time to time, it's a little bit, right? But I can understand what you're saying.
Maybe I'll just hold it here.
Whatever you need to do.
I don't know what I need to do. But yeah, I think we all share the biological reality of being female, and then obviously that has different connotations, denotations, depending on the person.
Okay.
Oh, okay. My favorite part of that response is how it completely ignores the very concrete example I gave, wherein the very word woman itself, think about it for 5 seconds. It's a derivation from man. Man does not contain any such prefix. We are presuming a heterosexual patriarchal situation in order to define woman even as a discrete category in that way. That's not universal. Even if it were the case that at some point in time that described every single society in existence, we can imagine very easily societies in which that doesn't uphold. We would not therefore say, there's no common experience there at all. What you're describing is a very particular cultural contingency, and you're
It's the
simply
material.
asserting that it's universal.
It's the material reality of being female. So
The
that's not the
material reality of
construction.
being female is contingent on time and place.
I'm sorry.
Among other things, even within a single time and place, there will be women who are lesbian. There will be women who are amputees. There will be hermaphrodites.
They are still either, and they are still female.
Which means what precisely?
Which means that you are the sex that holds the stationary larger unit. You are capable of creating a child within your womb.
There are women without wombs.
Yes, but it's because of a disease that affects their female.
That doesn't matter.
System.
That doesn't matter. You're defining Lav. But Lav, that doesn't work. You're defining the female by reference to an organ. If the organ isn't present, that doesn't work. You can't just insist after the fact, after the organ's gone, oh, well, it's still female.
It's of the nature to. It's the capability. Being able to hold the female gamete, being the sex that creates the larger female sex gamete.
Okay, but what is the sex then? How are you distinguishing these?
Our biological role in reproduction.
But it is not simply the case, first of all, if there are only two sexes along those lines, because there are once again people we will both describe as women who do not produce larger gametes, and there are hermaphrodites.
But they are still of the nature to produce larger gametes.
What do you mean by of the nature to produce larger gametes? Nature has not supplied them with the tools to produce larger gametes.
So are you saying that male and female doesn't exist because there were aberrations?
No, I'm saying male and female are genders.
So male and female, you are arguing are genders and not sex-based.
Yep.
Can you elaborate on that, please?
Absolutely. So when we identify organs and cells and chromosomes and things of that sort as being those that are of the substance of femaleness, we are not actually discerning femaleness in those cells. We are registering that people who approximate to the cultural image of a woman, which is culturally contingent, obviously, typically bear these characteristics. Case in point, the situation of cis men who have two X chromosomes and cis women who have an X and a Y chromosome. These are not determinative of gender, clearly, and yet we associate these as being the sex chromosomes.
Are you using gender and sex interchangeably?
Yeah, but in a different direction from you. So you're going to argue with an essentialist understanding of sex that gender is to sex as sex is to nature. I'm going to argue that sex itself is gender at a different level of remove, because it is actually identified by reference to gender profiles.
Game.
Case in point. We did not have an understanding of these biological factors when we identified the sexes.
But we knew that there were two. We knew that there was a smaller, weaker sex, and we know.
No, we didn't.
There
have been hermaphrodites in.
That was not the general. That was not the standard. So when
the standard doesn't matter. If you're making a universal claim, it needs to be universal. Universal claim doesn't admit of myriad exceptions. I've just listed a list.
I want to hear Lav's response to this. I'm very curious. What would you say to all of that? Go ahead.
I am a gender atheist. I think that gender is a completely post-structuralist understanding of the sexes. I think that it's based in stereotypes and immaterial reality. I think that it's a list of oppressive roles that we keep the sexes in. There is no There is no evidence of gender identity in the brain. We've tried to test it. We can't empirically trace it. Throughout the early 19th century is when people started, or when doctors or sexologists started to study these things, and still we have no evidence of gender identity in the brain. We can't really identify what even gender means definitionally. In fact, I would actually really like PresidentSunday to give me a definition of gender, with the caveat that it is not describing stereotype, or it is not a circular definition. So you can't use gender in the first half and the second half.
What do you suppose gender is? What do you think it refers to? What part of
almost,
culture or
I am
human
almost
experience is it
positive
picking
I just described. I'm almost positive I just
I'm
said.
sure you are, but maybe say it again for those of us who are a little bit slow. What do you suppose the word gender is picking out in particular? Why do you suppose we use that and not simply biological sex?
Well, there are actually a couple reasons. So I think that one is that in the 1970s, post-structuralist, postmodernist feminists tried to assert that females were not becoming housewives because they wanted to, but it was something that was pushed on them. It was not something that was biologically essential, but something
that describes you, does it not?
But something that was
But
constructed.
that describes your position, does it not?
What do you mean?
You don't believe that women are biologically predisposed to be housewives?
Yes, I know.
Well, okay.
So maybe you can understand my confusion then.
Do you understand her definition though of gender?
Well, I'm given to understand that gender as a concept is absurd, but it directly stems from feminist efforts to distinguish between to undermine biological determinism. The idea that your anatomy is in some way determinative of your social role.
Yes, and it was supposed to be it's constructualism, right? So it's
you know what that means?
All of this. Yes, I know what this means. It means
maybe
that words determine.
Well, I'm very dim, which is why I accepted this debate. Maybe you can help me. Explain for me, please. I'm lost.
It means that that there are two things determining our reality: that words and also biology, right? So, or not biology, but just experience, your material reality, right? You look very confused. Are you not?
I am
grasping
indeed
the concept.
I'm not entirely certain what I'm grasping. So you just confused biology and experience. I'm a little bit perplexed.
So, well, you don't think that sex is real, so I don't know what to have.
I think. Well, hang on. I think gender is real. If I'm describing linguistic and cultural systems, I'm describing things that are real.
So you take the Judith Butler approach, in which you don't take into account material reality, and you're a post-structuralist.
Judith Butler
are the reality.
Judith Butler is specifically concerned with material reality. How we partition it, how we
I don't think that you've ever read a Judith Butler book. Judith Butler is a post-structuralist, postmodernist. You did not read that book.
Let me quote.
You did not read that book.
I don't think you understand what a postmodernist is, or what a structuralist is. First of all, when we're talking about a structuralist, we're talking about somebody who understands concepts as being both produced and constrained by linguistic systems. They're not denying the existence of anything materially. They're saying that the labels we apply to things in the world make sense by reference to other things
you believe
within a closed system of language.
You believe that gender exists over sex, which is sex is material reality. Gender is immaterial.
The question
well,
does
let me
not
ask.
concern...
Let me interject here.
Can I answer this very quickly and then let you interject?
Yeah, quickly.
Sure.
Because I want to get us on a shared understanding.
I understand. So the question is not about whether or not, for example, you require certain sets of organs or certain cells to reproduce. The question is, how do we understand these as constituting specific human types? And this is always going to be social. Case in point, even if we take a sex determinative stance where sex is what defines your social role. In the absence of the opposite sex, that has no meaning. So if you're on a desert island, if sex is determinative of gender,
You are
by
still a
dint of its
female or a
reproductive
male.
function, but only by treating female as some kind of immutable magical substance that is conferred by a specific set of organelles or a culture's association of those with other things. So when you say still a female, you revert as soon as I say, well, hang on, there are women who lack these reproductive functions.
I did not revert at all.
Well, what I was going to
Someone
say,
is still a female.
what I was going to say is that you revert from treating females being defined by having these factors to, well, females defined from me perceiving that they ought to have those factors. That's a very different statement.
It's not perceiving. Perceiving that they ought to have is
we're talking about labels.
Is
Lav.
very
Here's a question.
silly.
Here's a question.
In every reproductive
Quick question.
system, for
So
all mammals, in which we are, have counterparts for sexual reproduction. They have reproductive roles. There is a
No,
male
mammals
and
are a social
female.
construct. We are all reptiles. So Lav, do you
You-
believe that
okay,
man
just
and
real
woman?
quick, Sunday, you're gonna have to let her at least finish her thought. Okay, I get it, right? You want to jump in, hit that buzzer, but you gotta let her at least finish her thought before we get in there. Just for the sake of conversation. Is that okay?
I don't know, Wick. Is it okay?
I don't know, but I want to ask you a question as soon as she's done answering. So
Well, fine,
finish,
then.
Lav, and then I will ask you a question.
He always knows how to butter me up.
I sort of forgot what I was saying. But
Okay.
yeah, sex explains our biological role, right? It explains the two types of human there can be in order to reproduce. It is not a construct. There is a female and there is a male. There are aberrations in which genes get mixed up, and there are certainly what we would call mistakes, right? Or like I said, aberrations. But that is not the general. We know that there, in order to reproduce, there is a female and there is a male.
So
You think?
oh
Okay.
carry on, please.
No, Wick.
No, I do have a question for you, but
I
back and
agreed.
forth.
No.
So
After you.
we heard her definition of gender. I'm curious as to yours. She did ask you, and I don't know if you ever answered it. And just for the sake of the class,
You retreated. Talking about my retreat.
It depends on frame of reference. So, as a constructivist who is analyzing the history of the use of gender, they're going to take a different stance, for example, from somebody who's embedded within a specific culture, where there's sort of a natural attitude towards gender as like being simply sex A or sex B. So, my understanding of gender, I do in fact take largely from Butler. My understanding of gender is that gender is precisely that, understood from the outside. So, it's a social role that is enforced and produced by a certain linguistic system. That's sort of so in our discourse, for example, when we talk about people as kinds, we refer to men and women as oppositions to each other, and we understand ourselves as we identify ourselves both internally and with respect to other people. I'm a guy who, stuff like that, right? Even the joker's like, look, I'm a man of simple tastes. It's sort of like discreetly in the back there. Now, my position contra the natural attitude is not that this is simply identifiable as sex. I think this is precisely what I've just described. It's a role understood within sort of a social matrix, sort of like a language system
Based
in
off
which
of what?
we understand things. Based off, what do you mean based off of what? Based off of practice, how people talk to each other, how people regard each other, how people identify themselves against other people.
So you are an essentialist.
I am a gender. What?
You are an essentialist.
No, I deny the existence of an essential gender. However, you can understand a system that treats of an essential gender, recognize that it still produces people who do legitimately identify. Hang on, recognize that it does produce people who legitimately identify with respect to those genders, and then treat those identities as what they are. They're still identities. They're still valid within that system, and you can still respect them as human beings when they self-avow that identity.
So, what do you call a drag queen that does not?
A drag queen is very specifically somebody who is playing with the rules of a system and subverting them while also referencing them. So, for example,
so is a trans woman by that measure.
No, a trans woman is not playing with those. A trans woman is actually performing the role of a woman. They are a woman. They're also breaking down. They're also breaking
the role of a woman and being a woman are not the same thing.
They are precisely the same thing. Even if we take a biologically essentialist route as you have, you were specifically talking about performing a
Biological
function to a certain
essentialism
task.
Lav,
does
you
not
gotta
exist.
just real quick, Lav, you gotta let him actually, because I'm curious too.
Sure.
Like, how are they? What is the difference? And I want to hear this answer, so please don't interrupt him.
Between
what
what?
is the difference for the when it comes? What roles are they performing? Right? Can you explain?
Oh, what roles are women in particular performing?
Trans women in particular, and
Well,
how is
that's
that different than drag queens? I'm just
Yeah,
curious.
yeah. So localizing it to our culture, because this is always culturally contingent. A trans, what was that sound?
Sorry.
Something. It's okay.
Sorry.
A trans woman is somebody who identifies as a woman in a heteronormative, heterosexual culture that instinctively associates womanness with having specific body parts and being like a specific configuration. Stereotypes. Well, actually, not too far from the mark.
Yeah.
That being the case, they simultaneously break that system a little bit, but they're also conditioned by it. They do identify by its terms. So the system is not that effective in terms of actually like creating the appropriate subjects for it. But am I making sense to you, Wick? Does that
No,
answer?
I'm getting it now, but I'm curious now. So that now that we
Please.
have that established, what you think here, I'm curious what Lav would say to that, right? So his definition of gender, what do you think? Is it on? Is it off? What's your thoughts here?
I think if you're a progressive, if you identify as a progressive, you would want to decimate a gender role, right? Because if you know, if these things, if performing this social role makes you a woman, certainly there's a way that you could identify
Oh, I
out
see
of
what's
it.
going on. I see what your problem is. You don't understand performativity. You think performativity
I
is
understand
somebody who puts on a
performativity
dress.
theory.
Can you clarify for me?
Performativity theory?
Yeah, can you explain it to me, please?
Sure. That literally, yeah. When you are performing, that becomes the
You're
reality.
hang on. Pause for a sec. You're cutting out again. Give it a second before you answer. Try now. Sorry. I want to be able to hear you.
So, Judith Butler's theory would explain that if people see you as, like, if you are seen as a woman, then then that is the reality. Then the internalized or the way that you view something would make it to be so.
No, I'm so sorry. That's incorrect. So performativity.
That's not incorrect.
That is quite incorrect, I'm afraid to say. Do you want me to explain performativity for you?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, so performativity is the idea that within a certain cultural setting, with its linguistic structures and things like that, you could think of it as like the world of a video game almost. It's all simulated. There are processes that emerge within that.
Gender performativity posits that gender is made up of acts that mark a person as man or woman. And it is through the repetition of those gender acts that the illusion of stable gender identity is created.
This is true,
which I just gave an example of.
Well, not exactly, because how you described it is of an agent choosing to act
gender,
out a role.
This is what Judith Butler says
choosing
in her
to
book.
act out a role. Choosing
in
to
her
act
book,
out a role.
Judith Butler says gender reality is performative, which means quite simply that it is real only to the extent that it is performed. Right? So if someone would see you as a woman, then that is real because that is what they are perceiving you.
I've got
I
a
was
paragraph to
completely
read
correct.
for you. I've got a paragraph to read for you. In this sense, gender is not a noun, but neither is it a set of free-floating attributes, for we have seen that the substantive effect of gender is performatively produced and compelled by the regulatory practices of gender coherence. Hence, within the inherited discourse of the metaphysics of substance, gender proves to be performative, that is, constituting the identity it is purported to be. In this sense, gender is always a doing, though not a doing, here's the important part, by a subject who might be said to pre-exist the deed. So the subject's self-understanding is also conditioned by the linguistic framework in which it's operating.
Maybe this will help the discussion.
So here, very quickly. So what Judith Butler is going to be highlighting over against someone like Simone de Beauvoir, actually not over against, actually consistent with, what Judith Butler is highlighting. When Simone de Beauvoir says that one is not a woman, one becomes a woman.
No.
What is the one?
That is completely... Simone de Beauvoir is taken out of context so frequently, it actually gets me
Why don't you clarify
the...
Okay, elaborate, please.
Simone de Beauvoir says in her book that one is not born a woman, one becomes one. What she's
Yes.
saying is that a female.
What is the one? What gender is the one?
A female. She's saying a female is put through the meat grinder. If you
No,
read
she's not.
if you read any of her books, she talks about sex-based oppression and how gender is enforced on a woman so that when she is born, we know instantly what type she is, and then she's put through the meat grinder of things that are imposed on her, and she comes out of it a woman.
That's gender. That's gender. Well done.
And
You've
she
located
comes
in the
out of it
world.
a woman.
You made a novel contribution
She was
to
not
science.
saying that males can be women. Judith Butler is saying that males can be women. Judith Butler is males can be women because she's saying the only thing that exists is perception. Judith Butler argues the only thing that exists is perception, and that reality is not reality.
Reality is not reality. What? You lost me. Say that again.
Yeah, if you weren't talking over me, you could have listened a little better, I bet. Judith Butler asserts that reality is in perception.
Do you believe reality is not in perception? Where do you find reality?
I believe that there are biological
truths. You believe, Miss Atheist? You believe on what basis? On the basis of your perception, obviously.
We can empirically
What is empiricism, Lav? It's using your senses to confirm patterns of tests. You say, look, we've tested this here. We've used our senses. Okay. We've determined this is the case, and we can do so consistently. That's what empirical testing is.
Sunday, I've never actually seen a debate of yours, but it's becoming increasingly clear to me that you just say a lot of words that sound very smart without any real understanding of what you're saying. I can simplify it, and you're jealous of that clearly.
Clearly.
But even if we're not talking about any of this, because we're just going to get in a big rhetorical battle, and it's going to be super boring, and neither of us, like, you're just going to be retarded and I'm just going to be trying to take you out of it. I want you to, in your framework, to explain how a butch woman who is not a mother, a butch female, sorry, you don't even understand female. A butch female is a woman who is not, hold on. A butch female who does not have children, who does not wear makeup, who could even be mistaken as a male, but calls herself a woman. Explain how that in your framework can be true, and also that a male identifying with femininity can be a woman.
One becomes a woman is completely permissive of a person with a penis and testes, etc., being raised and conditioned to identify and perform the role of a woman.
Let's say a female does not perform that role. Is she not then a woman?
I mean, you're thinking
it would come down to self-ID.
The reason why
it would come down to self-identification.
Well, no. This is why I was going to say you actually don't understand performativity. Because if you actually read, for example,
stay on the point, Sunday.
I'm being acutely on the point. Have you read Judith Butler's Bodies That Matter?
I haven't read Bodies That Matter.
Have you read Gender Trouble?
Yes.
Really? In your conversation with Boots, you said you didn't.
You're
a fast reader, faster than me.
That's not true.
I bought that.
Wait, that's not true. I said that I have not read everything about Judith Butler. I did say that I read one Judith Butler book, and that is the one.
No, I'm pretty sure the entire debate was you actually defending the notion that you don't understand Judith Butler by reference to other things written by other people.
So just real quick.
But very quickly, to answer that question, to get back on topic, thank you, Wick, for keeping me in line. That's why I need you.
Yeah, I don't care about the other debates, to be clear.
This is why I'm saying you don't understand performativity, because Judith Butler is very clear to specify that in this Lacanian frame, I know you don't know what that means, but in this Lacanian frame, when we are talking about one who performs, we are not talking about someone who, as an agent separate from the world, external to it, picks a gender or a sex and wears it like a robe. We are talking about someone who is conditioned as that. Therefore, externally, we understand woman and man within a particular cultural context as not a performer performing a role, but as precisely the performance of a role. We are talking about it as a doing. This is explicit in Butler. So you simply don't understand the theory, I'm sorry to say. I commend it to you because it will actually inform you very well.
So if a woman does not perform
No. It's actually a little bit different than that. It's not if a female doesn't perform. A female is a performance, case in point. You have to refer to biological functions, to things that things can and do in the world. Do you see?
So you just
Laugh it
don't
up,
believe in the
fuzzball.
you don't believe in the distinction between female and male.
I do believe in the distinction between female and male. I think it's culturally contingent. It's an invention. Case in point, Lav, do you believe that man and woman is something given to us by nature? Do you think these are categories given to us by nature?
I know that for some an inexplicable reason, there are two
Aw,
sexes
pupper.
which join together and procreate, and you need one and the other to
I
procreate.
didn't ask you that. I asked you, do you think man and woman are given by nature?
No, I'm not going to answer
You
your
don't think
question
they're
because
you don't think they're given by nature?
man and woman, man is a gender, woman is a gender. Those are constructs. Female and male are not.
Really? Why do you suppose female and male are not? Do we not identify them socially? Are these not labeled things?
We do
Just
identify
because
them
something,
socially,
just because
but we can
something, just
also
because something,
test
just because
them.
the understanding of a concept is socially constructed doesn't mean it doesn't.
I want her to answer the
connect in
question.
some sense
Stop,
to the world.
stop, both of you, stop. I want her to answer the question. You asked her a question. I'd like her to answer.
I
Go
did
ahead.
already.
I forgot the question.
You asked her, right? If male and female are socially constructed, or if they were endowed by nature, if there was something essential about them.
Man and woman.
Thank
He
you.
said man and woman.
I understand,
I
but
did.
I think
I did.
I'm curious, Lav, if you think male and female are constructions or if they are endowed by nature.
I answered. I said, for some inexplicable reason, if we want to talk about religion and what things ought to be and belief systems, what we're going to start talking about is gender, because gender is a faith-based argument. What we can observe in males and females in our reality, when we look around us, what is tangible, what we know to be true, is that there are two sexes in mammals, and that they have to, and that you need a sperm and you need an egg to procreate. We have reproductive roles. That is not a construct. To create a baby, you need a sperm and an egg. That is not a construct. That is reality.
Well, the concepts are constructs. The association of having
Great. Call it what you want.
and
Call it
fulfilling a
what you want.
particular social role are constructs.
Yes, but
These are not
usually we
inevitable.
have word. Okay, so what would you call someone who carries an egg gamete?
Someone who carries an egg gamete.
Yeah, what would you call it?
I'm one of those birthing people. Queermos, you know.
It's almost like we have a word for that. Female.
We do have
Birthing person is a construct. It means nothing.
You and I, Lav, we have
birthing
a word
person
for that.
means nothing. It means
Lav,
nothing. What is
well,
birth? What is birth, Sunday? What is birth? It's something that we call the expulsion of a child from a woman. What is birth?
I don't think you understand.
This is where you go.
Mistake. I don't think you understand the critical mistake that you've made. You've actually just shot yourself in the foot. You've referred everything to a consensus among us of what these terms mean. You are specifically implicating society and the identity of these factors. You are arguing that sex is a social construct when you do so.
Everything is a social construct in your view
No,
of things.
not everything is a social construct.
What things
everything
aren't?
articulated as everything is a social construct. Our concept of everything is socially constructed. I didn't come up with that.
Okay, so nothing
I got
is
that
real.
from my environment.
Okay, so nothing is real. How do we make laws?
That doesn't mean nothing is real. The social constructs themselves
How do we legislate?
are real.
How do we legislate?
They're not just. They're not
if
just real.
Words don't exist?
They're not just real. You're referring one nominal system to another nominal system. That's immaterial. When something is socially constructed, we are talking about something that is. We are describing something in the world. What we are doing, however, is we are specifying whether its terms are in some sense given from outside the realm of human action and human communication and human thought, or whether they're generated by it. And that's immaterial as to whether or not the outside world
I
from
agree
that
with you, but to create legislation, so let's join reality
create
again.
legislation.
To create
But legislation is just a nominal. Legislation is a
need-
nominal cultural system, Lav. We're not getting closer to reality. We're actually getting farther. Now we're specifying
you
the
live.
culture.
You know that episode of SpongeBob.
Wait, can I take 5
Squidward-
seconds? I need to refill my wine.
Go refill your wine. It's okay.
Yay!
You don't need my permission. Okay,
Well,
Lav.
I'll talk to you about it.
Lav and me in chat.
There's this episode of SpongeBob where Squidward goes to this like limbo where Noise makes a bunch of like weird squiggles and he's in like a fully white room it's what talking to President Sunday is like. Nothing is real. We can't identify anything. We can't talk about reality. It's impossible to have a conversation when he's trying to. Anytime you make an appeal to what is tangible, it becomes then non-existent, unless it's him who's talking about it. It's very silly and funny.
Well, he is, I'm assuming, back now. Are you ready, Sunday, to continue? Okay. So I guess to try to get this back on some sort
That
of...
wasn't 5 minutes. I guess time is a constant.
Well, he said 5 seconds.
It is.
But...
It is.
That's
relativity, baby.
That's 5 minutes to you, but in actuality, it wasn't 5 minutes because there is a reality.
That was like 20 minutes to me.
Yeah, interesting.
I wanna hit on oh god, this has gone so many places.
So many physicists in the audience are just so fucking mad right now.
I do want to touch on the concept of how we in our culture identify male and female, right? And I want to know from President Sunday's end, do you think that there is any utility to being able to identify someone as male or female from a biological sense?
Well, I mean, of course there is, but that's going to be with respect to the ends of a community, right?
Sure, but can you give me some examples of these utility, just for the sake of discussion, so we can talk about those?
Sure. So, for example, if you're in like a hunter-gatherer / like foraging society,
not of our society today in America. Or Canada.
Oh, is there utility in it?
What is America really?
Probably.
We all perceive America.
I'm in Canada. I'm not even part of the same.
North America. Let's say North America.
What is North? What is?
That's an excellent question, actually, Lav. What is North? But seriously, what is it?
It is just our understanding of this way.
Well, clearly not, because compasses work. What is it?
Sunday.
It's not just that. I mean, it is partially that, of course.
Sunday.
Like, we labeled it North. It's not... You know that the globes aren't, like, actually representative, right? It doesn't actually say the North Pole on the planet.
I know. Have you ever been there?
Touché. Anyways, in answer to your question...
Schrodinger's North Pole.
In answer to your question, Wick, I think one of the reasons why gender abolition becomes very attractive in present day is precisely because we've identified that actually we don't really need these gender categories in order, for example, to maintain things like our reproductive needs and so on and so forth. Trans men can, and I mean, it gets a bit more complicated than that even before, if we just stick with the binary. Trans men being trans men doesn't mean they can't carry children. Trans women being trans women doesn't mean that they can't, I mean, sometimes they can't if the surgeries remove the capacity to do so, if they haven't frozen eggs, or they haven't frozen sperm, rather. But trans women being trans women doesn't mean they can't contribute to reproduction either. And non-binary people, of course, reproduce all the time.
But males cannot be pregnant. What we call males cannot be pregnant.
What we call males. I mean, you and I will call male something very differently. Don't bring me
What do you think
this.
what is a male to you?
I think a male is a gender. If you're talking about like somebody, if you're talking about like the larger or smaller gamete producers, we can make that distinction.
Yeah. Okay, let me ask Lav the same question because I'm curious your answer. We got yours. Lav.
Yeah.
What is the utility in North America in the culture we exist today to having to being able to identify male and female from a biological perspective? What are some of the utility to that?
Well, I think that there is clear differences between the sexes. Not in any. Well, I like to say this is that 90% of one sex can kill 90% of the other with their bare hands. So we have that. There's obviously a physical difference in most of the population, and there's obviously distinctions like a woman can carry a child for 9 months, so she's going to need accommodations for carrying that child. And also, we need to accommodate.
What about a woman who's had a hysterectomy? She can't carry.
And we also need to accommodate for male aggression, because obviously men commit most violent crimes and most sexually violent crimes, and so we would.
You ever been in a fight with a trans man before? Let me tell you, it's different than you'd expect.
We would then have to, that is still a very small percentage of the population. When we're talking in generalities, how we make laws, it's to protect the general population. So most of it, right? So there are obviously exceptions to the rule, but when
On what evidence?
when we're talking legislation, we're going to need to make some generalizations,
When you
right?
said, just out of curiosity, because you made a statement there, I want to dig in on it a bit, and I'm curious what Sunday would think of this as well. You said male
listening.
aggression, right? Do you think that that's a biological, essential trait to males, that all males have, at least in general, a greater capacity for aggression? Do you think that's a biological thing?
So I mean, people are constantly talking about where it stems from. There's definitely a link with higher testosterone and violence in animals or aggression in every mammal, and certainly so with men as well. But also, it's definitely socialization as well. We just don't know which is which the main contributor.
So in a world in which, for whatever reason, maybe some disease or some dietary fad causes all women to have excess testosterone, and then as a result of them all becoming a little bit more aggressive, they socialize each other into being even more aggressive, they would all become men?
No, they would be females with aggression.
I see.
And then we would have to maintain men as a protected sex class, right? Because if they were the ones being predated on, it would make sense to then create legislation to protect them.
Lav, the question that we are debating is what is a woman? You're referring once again to an additional, like a subculture within a subculture on the historical stage.
Wick asked me a question.
Law is well, you're the one who chose legislation that was your focal point. Law is nominal. These are things that we it's just the most literal social construction imaginable, or the most
Yes.
direct social construction imaginable.
And you can live in a reality in which we don't have to make laws to protect each other and to create and to live in a happy working society. You can live in that
You're
world.
describing
But I'd like to
the
live in the
vast
material
majority.
world.
You're describing the vast majority of human history, Lav. We've only had laws since the Roman Empire.
Sunday, if I
Yeah.
may. If I may.
Please.
So do you not think we need any kind of laws to protect certain gender or sex classes?
Do I not think we need certain laws to protect certain gender or sex classes? I mean, clearly we do. We live in a strongly heterosexual, heteronormative, sexist, patriarchal environment in which certain people
In which
who are
you can call
produced.
a man a woman if she just
Certain
wears
people-
lashes.
Well, no, because they're not a woman. They're not a man. They are a woman. They're not wearing lashes.
And you
because
can
they're-
be a woman if you
No.
are a gender stereotype. If you are performing the gender
No,
stereotypes, you
no.
can
If I were to wear big lashes, a bra, and like a big frilly dress, I'd be in drag. I would not be a woman.
So I knew you were going to do this. So it really is self-determinant on self-ID.
But it's not actually.
It's whether or not
determined
you
self-ID.
believe.
No, you're
You
confused.
You
The
just
self-ID.
immediately.
No.
I'm not confused. You just caught yourself
You're
up.
very confused.
The only thing that matters.
I really didn't laugh.
So there's this trans
You don't have
woman
the
or
cachet for this
detransitioner.
move. Just trust me. Listen, just hang on one sec. Before we do this, after you do this whole spiel,
Just
trust me. Just trust me, Lav. I'm doing you a favor, okay? We can do this in a friendly way, or we can do this the Sunday
Overlord.
way.
Thank you,
Yo.
so masculine man. Thank you for
You're
protecting
welcome.
me and my small feminine body.
That's just how Sunday do. When we are talking about somebody in drag, we are talking about somebody who is specifically donning clothing that is discordant with their identity, in a sort of humorous commentary on that.
So identity is what matters.
No. Here's where you're confused. Self-identity.
I am not confused.
Self-identity. If only saying it would make it so. Self-identity concerns whether or not we address people by reference to their avowed identity, or whether we address people by reference to something else. So, for example, if a person identifies as a trans woman, but they're going, as they say, boy mode today, and they're wearing like a hoodie and like the clothing that I'm wearing right now, I would not therefore dispute with them on the grounds that they are not presenting as the stereotype of a woman. Self-ID is concerned with how we relate to one another in terms of levels of respect. However, in terms of what makes somebody a woman, that's not self-ID in the sense, once again, to return to performativity, which you tragically misunderstand. Had you read like 15 pages of Butler, you would know this. She is very specific that performativity does not refer to a self separate from the world, picking and choosing gender and sex designations, which are of the same category, as she argues very effectively, as if they were like a form of dress up. Instead, they are themselves produced in both the performing of their society and their performing of a role. They are themselves constituted by the linguistic matrix in which they are born, in which they live, etc., and so forth. And they find that the shoe of womanhood fits, but the one of manhood does not.
So what about a female who does not think that
We are in the presence of one right this moment. Let's see.
Can you answer her question though? If a female
Needs to finish the question. I didn't hear the whole question. I think
Sure.
How do you know that I'm a woman?
I don't. Taking your word for it.
So this, you just deconstruct things, and at
I
some
didn't
point
deconstruct Jack.
you
That's
have
not what
to
deconstruction
engage.
is.
You have to engage with reality.
I don't know if you're a woman.
Okay.
Lav, I don't know if you're a cis man. Finster is very good at what he does.
It's only a matter of time before he is a she, though, right?
Is that a fact? I don't know if that's true. Does he identify as a woman? I'm pretty sure.
I'm sure most people could mistake him as one, and so to them he would.
Yeah, but that's deliberate. Like if I were able to.
But so to them he would be a woman.
Yeah, he would be.
So then he would be a woman. So Finster is a woman.
No, that's not how that works. That's not how that works.
Explain how it doesn't work.
Because we're not talking about the person disembedded from their society, fooling their society.
You're talking about
putting on a costume.
You're talking about Finster's identification of himself.
I don't know Finster's
and that is what
identification
matters.
of himself. I don't know Finster's identification
So
of himself.
Finster identifies as a straight male, just to let you know.
So for example, if I identify to you as a male, I'm not actually giving you access to my first person perspective. I'm simply telling you, you can trust me or you cannot. Or, maybe as a matter of respect, you can perform the act of trusting me or you cannot.
Do you think material reality exists?
Of course it does.
So what are some things that are material?
I mean, it's a little bit redundant when you're talking about material reality. I don't know what this word reality is adding to the notion of material.
What is material?
That's a metaphysical question. I have no idea.
Okay. It's like at some point you can just deconstruct until you're living in SpongeBob.
What do you think deconstruct means?
SpongeBob no man's land.
Yeah.
And then you can, ask me these things. Do you know what that means? Do you know what that means? We live in a society, and we have to make laws and prescriptions according to said society. And so you can have your, privileged life and where you sit back and drink your wine and go on Discord all day and do your thing. And I doubt that you are contributing much to society in doing that. But some of us would like to make society a better place,
contributing to society,
a safer place,
like one of the riffraff.
Yes.
Let me ask.
Place.
Okay. Let me ask Lav this, if I may, real quick. Lav.
You may.
Yeah.
Thank you for your permission, sir.
You're welcome.
What are the dangers, or why don't we just let trans women identify as women? What's wrong with that? Why can't what harm is it, right? Even if you don't believe that they're female or what have you or anything like that, what harm is there? And let someone say, "Hey, I have dysmorphia. I don't feel comfortable as a man. I'm going to identify as a woman, and I wanted to be treated as such, both legally and socially." What is wrong with that?
It's not so much there's anything wrong with the fantasy of it, right? The fiction of it is completely understandable, especially, if you if you have read any of Ray Blanchard's typology, you know that it's an obsession for people to be transsexual. This is something that could be the most real thing to them in their life. So the fantasy of it is fine. And I'll, use the correct pronouns if someone is my friend as a courtesy, right? I'm engaging in fiction as a courtesy. But when we say trans women as women, and then that influences laws and legislation that are being made that could put women who are already a protected sex class in harm's way, is when it becomes a problem for me, is when it becomes legislative, right? So if we were all playing pretend and you wanted to act like a woman and whatever, then I don't care. I don't care if you're
What
gender nonconforming.
legislation, if I may ask, what legislation do you feel that puts women, or females, I should say, at risk regarding this?
Any legislation that advocates against single-sex spaces. So this could be potentially sports, prisons, and then bathrooms. But bathrooms are, I just think that we should have single stall bathrooms. We should just have that.
I was gonna, when I was out earlier when I was grabbing this wine, it's surprisingly good for how cheap it is, and I was thinking, you know what? The nerves are really getting to me. I could, oh shoot, I can't molest people in the bathroom stalls. It's against the law. Fuck. And then I walked home, and here I am. A little bit silly, isn't it? If people are going to assault people in the bathrooms, what the hell is the fact that it's illegal to enter the bathrooms going to stop them from doing something that's already illegal in the bathrooms, regardless of who they are?
So I'm not under the assumption that making something illegal would stop it in entirety, right?
Then what is your argument?
It is illegal.
Not even stop it entirely. It won't stop it at all.
That's a matter of anecdotal opinion. We know that laws are actors of deterrent, so less people murder.
No, we don't. If anything,
yes,
laws... No, we don't. What do you mean? What are you referring to?
You don't think that laws are a deterrent?
Are laws a deterrent? They're broken.
Yes. People are scared to go to...
How would you determine this? Okay, so the law against sexual assault already exists. Lav, does it deter it? You seem to be terrified of it.
Yes, but some things are not illegal that are still uncomfortable. I don't want women to go into the bathroom and see an AGP taking a photo of their penis in a mirror. That's uncomfortable. That is not illegal. How do you legislate against that?
Hang on, slow down.
Autogynephilia, I assume.
Oh, that.
Is that correct? I don't mean to put words in your mouth.
Well, I don't think people are allowed. I don't think people are allowed in bathrooms generally to take a picture of their penis in the mirror.
It's not illegal. But certainly you would advise against it, right? So there's a social construct.
Don't expose yourself sexually in the bathroom.
There's a social contract. So there are social contracts.
There's no social contract. That's a fiction. Don't just trust me, Lav. I say this as a kindness, okay? Because I don't hate you. Just don't go down that fucking road with me. You don't want to.
Okay, I bet
you're barking up the wrong tree here.
I bet that you're right. But yeah, I certainly think when I want to jaywalk, if I know that there's going to be a policeman, or when I'm speeding, right? If I know if Google tells me there's going to be a speed check, I'm going to slow down.
So you want policemen in the bathrooms, do you? You want them checking to see if they have a ball sack before they go to the loo?
But certainly if you are doing something inappropriate in the bathroom and then you are found to be a male and you are showing...
You'll be thankful the cop is right there watching.
No, you should be able to, that should be illegal. Whether or not it's criminable by,
look, I don't know the specifics of this, but I'm pretty sure if you were posing nude in front of, the washroom sink... there would be legal recourse for people to deal with that. I'm pretty sure that'd be the case in a men's washroom. If you had a guy butt naked,
women are naked in the bathroom all the time with each other.
In the women's washroom.
Yep.
Where there's
we can certainly say in the locker room.
Hang on, slow down. I've cleaned women's washrooms. I worked that unfortunate job before.
And you weren't with them. And why weren't you with them?
There are stalls.
Were you cleaning them while they were using them?
I was not. There are stalls.
And why is that?
Because they were the women's washroom. And
let's move it off the bathrooms.
But you still went into the women's washroom, so why didn't you go in while they were in there?
I think there's more interesting...
Hold on, Wick. Is it because you didn't want to make them uncomfortable?
No, it's because...
of a social contract.
No, right? Actually, it's because... Well, actually, no, not because of a social contract. In point of fact,
yes.
In point of fact, when you clean,
yes.
No. In point of fact, if you ever worked a retail job, for example, you would know that when you clean the washroom, You put a cone in front whether you're working in the men's or the women's, and nobody's allowed to come in while you are cleaning.
That's not true. I have been in
That
so
is
many bathrooms in
very
which
true.
a female is cleaning it as I'm using it.
Okay, well then they were generous to you and they allowed you
The
to
reason
go
why
while they were
you don't,
working.
as a man, clean a woman's restroom when there are women in it is because of the social contract that you don't want to make any women uncomfortable.
What? The social contract is not about making people comfortable. What are you talking about? What do you think a social contract is?
A social contract can be for a ton of things, but certainly there is comfortability.
No, you're mistaken. A social contract has no bearing on this conversation. Social contract as a notion is originated by Thomas Hobbes, and it is a measure by which you legitimate existing governmental authorities by deriving them in some sense mechanically from the consent of the governed. This is not relevant to this conversation at all. You're mistaken.
I want to move off the bathroom stuff. Because I think there's more interesting and fertile ground in the other sex exclusionary places that were mentioned by Lav, right?
Yeah.
Sports, whether it be women's shelters, right? Whether it be those type, like locker rooms in general, right? Not bathrooms specifically, but locker rooms, spas, etc. Do you think there is any value, if it was up to you, PresidentSunday, do you think there's any value in these things, or would you just eliminate them entirely and just make it
value
all...
in like women's shelters and such?
No, the sex exclusionary spaces. So, for example, the fact that we women's sports exclusively
Female
for
prisons.
Women. Female prisons. That's another one. Yeah. Do you think there's any value in having these as sex exclusionary?
Within cultural conditions in which these things predicate like intersex abuse, I'm not denying that these categories are real. People are produced as these things. This is, I mean, clearly. No, but clearly, like with respect to prisons, for instance, the issue at hand is not that we have people who are identifying as female but have penises going to women's prisons. The issue is that we are putting people into a situation in which they are forced, under minimal guard, under compulsion, to expose themselves to strangers in an environment, much less strangers who have proven by dint of their being there, they are poorly socialized or poorly situated in their environments, they don't behave correctly. This is a broader question. This doesn't actually bear on the question at hand at all.
You created the question to be a little broader. He asked you a pretty precise question.
Well,
You
no.
can't
He asked
answer
me,
it because when you engage with reality, it completely tears your
there goes
whole
gravity.
makeup.
But before we get too far into that, the reason that this bears on the topic of hand, and the topic specifically being what is a woman, right? Because if we are going to have sex exclusionary spaces, we should probably have some sort of way to identify who is and is not a member of that sex. And if we are going to have these spaces, if there's any value whatsoever in these spaces culturally, right, then we need to have some kind of standards, whatever they may be, right, whether it's self-ID or otherwise.
Here's the actually this does get to the crux. This does get to the crux of the issue a little bit. So, for example, a very, very, whatever you want to call them, somebody with a penis and testes who is only attracted to men is going to pose much less threat to women in a women's prison than a woman who is a sex offender and a lesbian. Yes, that seems logical to me.
So, like I said, I'm not making it.
Once again, I think the issue is with the way in which we handle people who break the law. The issue is not with trans women or trans men or things like that. The issue is that there's a distinction between how we address people in normal life and how we handle people who are breaking the laws of a system that we already believe is productive of the types of people that inhabit it. There's a certain circularity here. This is why I say the question is a little bit irrelevant, because like the bare fact of somebody being a trans woman doesn't mean that they would even be and possessing like a penis and testes doesn't even necessarily mean that they would be remotely interested in the female-bodied people around them.
Sure. No, that's fair. Same question to you, Lav. How would you answer that?
So obviously you need to be female to join a women's space, to join a women's prison. In
Is that a
any, if you
fact?
look
Hang
like,
on.
if
Wait,
you
wait,
look
wait.
like,
Were any trans
I'm
were any
saying ought
trans
to
women
be.
admitted to?
I'm saying ought
Ought
to
to
She,
be.
be.
it's a should
Yeah,
rather than a is,
You
I think.
should.
I thought you said
Um,
obviously it is the case that you need to be.
yeah, I'm saying obviously this is what I think. Obviously, like I'm talking about obviously this is what I
Continue,
think. I'm not
please.
saying that they're reality.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, it is my belief that females should only be permitted to, whether you look like a buck angel or you look like, you know, fucking who's a tiny woman.
What if I told
Me.
you what if I
Me. If you
what
look
if
like Buck
I
Angel or me, you are all female, and we know we've done studies. There's a Swedish study saying that male criminality follows the same pattern, whether or not you describe yourself as transgender, as transsexual. There was a study in which they tested almost in which I think it's actually precisely 364 transsexuals who have had surgery and who had been on hormones for a substantial amount of time. I forget what
what's it called? Do you know
the
the
amount of
authors?
time is.
What's
It's
it
called
called? Do you know?
It's called the Swedish study
The
in
Swedish
regards to
study?
trans
Do you know who
criminality.
authored it? Do you know who authored it?
A moment, please.
I can look
Do
it
you know
up.
anything about the methodology?
Yes, I can bring up the
No,
thing.
I'm
But
just curious. Do you know?
yes, I know. Thank you.
Well,
Wick,
demonstrate, please.
Wick.
Wick is not here to save you anymore, Lav.
Where did Wick go?
I think he's gone to the washroom.
Oh no.
Let's take a quick break. Can we? Do we want? We're unregulated right now. Can we just chat briefly?
Sure.
What the fuck happened with that thing with counterpoints where you like you said?
Oh no, hold on, gang. Hold on. Minor faux pas here. Sorry. My Discord crashed. I'm coming back.
Fuck.
No, we're here.
Alas.
I
They
find
can't
it
see us
actually
yet.
very low blow and actually very
It
strange
is right in the balls. That's what I'm going for.
that you would ask me that. It feels entirely inappropriate. Wick has already asked us to not talk about this, and you're
Wait.
bringing it up
Hold on.
as a
What
I didn't do
happened?
anything. Look, she's making it up. I didn't
Kind
do
of
anything.
I was literally not
publicly
here. I
humiliate or
had to
embarrass me.
I didn't.
deal with this.
You can do that entirely without my assistance. I
You
assure
you do not like Steven because you know that he harasses people, and you know that
I
he has a
don't.
whole bunch
I
of
don't
things, and
like. I don't
you
like.
have blatantly
Okay,
you have
both of
blatantly
you-
put me
I don't
you
like
have blatantly
Steven.
put me in a position where now it is uttered, so now it lives in the room with us.
Hold on. I'm going to mute you both for a moment because I want to make this clear. What was asked? Sunday, what did you ask her? I wasn't here for this.
About he asked me about
I want Sunday to answer real quick.
I asked her just out of curiosity, with their permission. I asked, "Can we speak candidly? Because you're gone. Daddy's out of the room." Why did you, just out of curiosity, why did you say that you were on kind of a pay for play thing with Destiny when you were talking to counterpoints?
Okay, yeah. Again, we're not talking about the drama stuff, right? In any way. So okay, we're gonna move on.
God, and you.
We're not.
Sure.
We're
It's
again. This
juicy.
is just not the time or the place to discuss drama outside of the question at hand. That's
But
all.
then where is Wick? Where is?
You have your own show. You can discuss it there. Let's get back to the question at hand, which is, right, I think female exclusionary spaces, sex exclusionary spaces to be specifically. Given that, right, if a trans woman doesn't have any prior history and is in jail for like tax fraud or something, and this is a question to laugh, they're in jail for tax fraud or what have you, okay? It's not a violent offense. Why keep them out of those spaces of a female prison? If that's where they'd feel more comfortable, if that's where they would feel more safe. If it's a non-violent offense, do you have a problem with putting a trans woman into a female prison?
Why would we then just not keep them in a different sect of a male prison? I don't understand why that becomes female why that becomes women's problem.
I've got a
To have a-
modification of that question, which I think
To have a
gets to the heart of the matter.
potentially, so we already know that if someone is more likely to commit crime as a man, that they are more dangerous. I don't know why we would then use women as collateral when you can just house them in a different sect of a male prison. Why does it have to be women's problem?
I've got a better question that sort of gets to the heart of the matter. Suppose I have a long history of sexually assaulting women, and I reveal to you, as I've finally been caught, I actually have had a vagina this entire time. Which prison should I go to?
A female prison if you are a female.
So you would put me, despite the fact that I've sexually assaulted women in particular, I've been caught for this, but I happen to have a vagina. You
we
would
make
put
laws and rules based on generalities, and we don't for the exceptions to the rule. It just so as it stands that women are not as sexually aggressive.
Criminals
they do
are
not
exceptions
create
to the rule. They have
they
broken
do not
the law.
I,
They are a minority.
yes, and there are exceptions to the rule of the exceptions of the rule. Women on average do not commit violent crimes. Women on average do not commit violent crimes really in general. So
You're a nutball.
okay.
That's insane.
Nice counter. Nice counter.
That's
Okay.
insane.
I've been paid some money to ask this.
You are morally insane.
I've been paid some money to ask this
The
question.
leprechaun has been given his gold.
I
Lav.
actually know your tactic. You bring up something really personal when you know that you're losing.
Lav,
She's got me guilty as charged. I think I've been destroyed. Oh god, this has been like the fight of my life.
for 500 SA key, which I don't know how much that is, but thank you
It's
for the
less
money.
than it sounds like, but it's still generous.
Yes. Lav, what is structuralism?
Dude. This is so stupid. Like, I'm not going to answer fucking retarded questions trying to test whether or not
I just got paid to ask it. I don't care if you
understand
answered or
them.
not.
It's a method of interpretation of human behavior and culture and experiences. I know what structuralism is. Thank you.
Okay. And gang, if you have money and you want to give it to me to ask them, I'll
And
ask
give
the
it to
question,
me.
But I can't force them to answer, and that's fine. It's a Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
One of the issues I'm having with understanding your arguments here, and bear with me,
I will bear.
Bear
with me. I'm a little slow right now.
Sure.
I'm totally sloshed.
I understand. I understand like that there is a level of social construct to how we identify and categorize things, such as male or female, even in the animal kingdom, right? We have socially decided that these are some sort of the categories, right, that we make. But is there no, like, there is obviously, we do this for a reason. We create these categories for a reason, because it helps us to deal with these categories in different ways. So when you talk about
can we pause
women,
there for a quick sec before you continue? It's a little bit important. So there's a little bit of circularity there. So you've talked about dealing with these categories, but we're trying to talk about like how we derive these categories in the first place. So you see how that's a little bit confused. So I'm going to have difficulty answering the question just because the question itself...
Well, you haven't heard the question yet.
Sort of presumes an answer to it.
You haven't heard the question yet. All right.
No, I understand. Just the premise is circular, so...
Okay.
Or there are multiple premises that sort of refer to each other. Continue, sorry.
Please try to engage with what
I'm trying to give you the most bang for your buck, okay?
Okay. Well, I appreciate that. So, given that, right, as we talked about Butler and performativity and things like that, and that one of the ways that, according to Butler, that we can that women identify is through the performance of being a woman, right? Does not doing that just reify some of the harmful stereotypes that women face, such as, well, if I want to be a woman, I have to do woman things, such as take care of the kids, or wash the dishes, or make less, wear makeup and things like that. Doesn't this just reify some harmful stereotypes? How do we deal with that? Reify, make real. So
No. I get what you're saying, but like, what act causes?
So, for example, if someone wanted to identify as a woman, in order to
Mhm.
be perceived as a woman, they wear makeup, they put on a dress, they decide to talk more feminine, they
Oh, I see what
decide
you're
to
saying. Yeah. No,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
that's an excellent question, actually. So you're talking about like, what do you do in the case where you identify these gender roles as being culturally contingent, not necessary, and potentially harmful as well? What do you do when you have people that you want to advocate for that are nonetheless identifying with these things? Well, precisely that. These people are embodying, they aren't just embodying things in the sense of like they are choosing to take on an archetype that they perceive in the world. These people are actually conditioned in which that is actually what fits them in terms of how they relate to other people, how they relate to the societies, what they do, what their proclivities are, et cetera, et cetera. And so you are legitimately in a bit of a bind here in that you are simultaneously invested in breaking down the things that make them feel like that people need to do these things, that people are constructed to need to perform these things, while also recognizing the dignity of people who have been so constituted that they do. It is a pickle. And how you go about it is precisely like that. Like, for example, I'm a man. I identify a little bit ambiguously, but I identify for argument's sake as a man. I relate to my society as a man. I feel like a sense of shame for failing to perform as a man in certain ways. I feel a sense of pride in being able to perform as a man in certain ways. Um, some of these things are harmful. Some of these things are probably positive and should be more universalized. Things like that. Like, for example,
Okay,
one isn't born a woman, one becomes a
I
woman.
got you.
Same thing with a man. Like citizenship is associated
My
manhood in that
question,
respect.
my question for Lav would be, right?
Oh, I wasn't there yet, but okay.
Oh, finish, right? But
No,
this
no,
is a
no, no,
conversation, so I
no, no,
wanna.
no, no. I understand.
Okay,
Continue.
Lav, given that you are a gender abolitionist, right? That you want to do away with gender. First of all, is that correct to identify you as a gender abolitionist?
Yes.
Okay. Do we not see any value in gender roles at all? Is there not any positive to come from having the ability to know kind of what you're supposed to do in any social situation, or at least having a general guideline to go by? How would you address that if you wanted to abolish gender?
The
What
problem
would
the
what
prob
would replace it?
the problem is that our gender roles have been constructed under a patriarchal society. So any gender role that a female has is going to be subordinate to a male gender role, which is the problem. In a world where, in your worldview, where if you would have, if in your worldview, if you think that men and women are supposed to have equal dominion over the earth, gender roles constructed under a patriarchy are going to only be advantageous and advantageous to women. If there were gender roles in which we're completely equal and we valued motherhood and valued femininity in the same way that we value masculinity and manhood, and perhaps things would be different. But as they exist now, I don't really understand it. But gender as a concept, as if all of these, as if a set of things rooted in social construction make you something.
Lav, you just described a socially constructed set of gender roles.
Yes. And I'm against the social construction of gender roles.
Yes, so am I. As
No, you're
prescriptives,
not.
as
You
things.
want to make
I
them
am.
real. You want to believe you are asserting that if a man performs the correct amount of feminine gender roles, they then become a woman. It's
Well,
regressive.
they're not a man. You've
They
contradicted your
are still
statement.
a man.
Well, no, because what's
A
under scrutiny
male.
here, what's under scrutiny here is what constitutes a man, right? I'm defying the idea that what constitutes a man is necessarily that they
Okay.
have X, Y, and Z organelles, or organs, case in Z, case
I can't. It is so hard
case
to
in
battle with like a just you are.
case in case in point.
Te-
Have you ever watched a really good anime called Dororo? There's a remake of it on Amazon
I
like
don't
10
watch
years ago.
anime. I have sex.
These are not mutually exclusive. You will be pleased to know. If anything,
Okay,
they can precipitate it in a
that's
very
good.
effective way. If you watch that, for example, there is the titular character called Dororo is a boy, quote unquote, on your frame of reference, who goes on adventures to find the lost, demonically possessed body parts of, I can't remember his name, but this other samurai ninja character.
To the point, please.
I'm trying to get there, Wick.
I understand. I just don't care about anime. It makes me sad.
Yes. Really? You don't?
I don't watch anime. Sorry.
You have sex. You fuck, Wick.
That's also true, but I don't think they're related. But anyway, yeah, I just don't know about anime, so I'm just trying to speed the process along. That's all. I'm listening.
No,
Go ahead.
I just feel sad now.
What was your point?
I lost it.
Fair.
But Wick, like you've got an action figure of like a fucking Gundam
This was
on
a
your
gift
shelf.
from my nephew. And if my nephew gets me a gift,
Your nephew is a better man than you. You need to measure up.
My nephew's
Watch
a 4-year-old boy.
Watch some Hellsing
What is
Ultimate.
a boy? How do you know he's a boy?
I don't.
I'm
taking
not
his word
debating
for it.
here. I'm moderating. I guess if you... So, Sunday, do you describe yourself as a gender abolitionist?
I have
course
never
he
described
doesn't.
myself. I have never described myself
So
as a
no.
gender abolitionist. But
Okay.
well, in as a general stance, it depends. Like it depends on what you understand by that term. So by gender abolitionist, do you mean the elimination of gender as a category? No, as opposed to the elimination of imposed gender categories presently now. Possibly for a lot of them, yeah. I think I mean actually weirdly in line with what Lav was saying at the beginning of this. The imposition of things like you're being manly or not conforming to some like imperative ideal if you're not shaving your legs or wearing makeup or things of that sort. I think that's incredibly toxic. I don't think that people should be felt to feel like they don't measure up or that they're grotesque. If, for example, they've gone through male puberty before things like hormone blockers and transition was made available to them, that therefore they're less of a woman or things like I think it's incredibly damaging.
Okay.
People kill themselves over this.
Okay. 100 SA key. SEK. Sorry, SA key. What am I saying? 100 SEK. Look, 100 sec. 100 sec to ask Lav. Can you define post-structuralism? I'm just asking the questions. You can...
Oh my god, dude. It's as a concept trying to I guess deconstruct what we know as knowledge, trying to bring into question what is truth? Is there a truth? That is what post-structuralism is.
No. No.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not.
I will Google it.
I believe you.
Okay.
If you Google it.
Google's aside. Google's aside. I guess...
Post-structuralism refers to a way of thinking that emphasizes the radical uncertainty of knowledge and posits that truth is not a fixed concept. Sunday, you are not even a smidgen as smart as you act and think yourself to be.
That is true, but nonetheless, you were still wrong on your initial statement. You reading off the other one you found on Google after the fact does not ameliorate that.
I literally... Wick, what do you think?
I try not to.
Do you think I explained it pretty apt?
It was close enough for government work.
Fuck, you're right. Okay, fair enough.
Are you okay? Are you drunk? Like, Sunday, seriously, are you... How far gone are you? Scale 1 to 10.
Like a 7.
Damn.
Jesus.
Okay. I don't know if... Let's start to wrap this up a little bit.
He got nervous to talk to a woman, real-life woman without a penis.
No. I've been veiling my deep quivering feelings for Wick this entire time. I just get those butterflies in the stomach every time I go on.
That's fine. I mean, understandable. Honestly, frankly.
Thank you.
I guess let's start kind of closing this out a little bit.
All right.
Well, first of all, before we do that, is there anything I have not asked? Any kind of lines of questioning that you wish I would have gone down that we have not yet gone down? And I'll start with Sunday first and then go to Lav. Go ahead.
How the fuck do you look like you do and do what you do and not watch anime? I don't understand it. That doesn't make
That's
sense
actually
to
a
me.
fair question.
So first of all, no, I'll answer this question. I find that one of the things I enjoy about storytelling in the format of on screen, so whether it be television, movies, etc., is the acting that is done. And I do not think animated acting has the same impact as real acting.
Oh, you are so
quote,
you are so
I just
you are
don't
so
think it does.
misinformed. I need to send you some recommendations.
I've
you
tried
you have been
several animes.
you have
man.
been no. you've been sent to the wrong things. You are
Dang it.
so incorrect. It is no.
Okay.
No, Wick. It is such an emotionally and artistically rich medium. You're missing out.
So I was paid money to ask you as well before we get to Lav here. Ask President Sunday where male murderers and rapists should go if they are male. Also ask if the murderers
to
and
grape jail, of
rapists
course.
are separate from the majority in prison.
Well, it depends. Have they had time to dry in the sun to become raisins? Because if that has taken place, then death is the only option. Unfortunately, they're too far gone.
There is no answer. There is no truth. What is a
Alright.
grape? What is a grape really?
A grape is just an undried raisin.
But what is undry? What is the concept of wet? Robust.
That's
What is dry, Sunday?
That's for future historians.
My
instead.
wit. That is dry. Question to you, Lav, right? Same question I initially asked. Sunday chose to ask about anime. In your opinion, what lines of questioning or argumentation or discussion did we not go down that you really wish we had?
Where gender comes from. Like, I think that in order to, to put so much emphasis on gender and gender identity, I think that you need to discuss where it comes from, and then we would then get into... I sort of brought up the 𝕬𝖎𝖏𝙗𝙧𝙗𝙧𝙘 typology, but with transsexuals. It would have been fun to see Sunday talk about it, but for another day.
Fair enough. Maybe when he's...
No, I wasn't...
Typology. Transsexual typology.
Transsexual typology. With respect to what? I actually mentioned that a little bit in my opening statement. Did you catch it?
The supposed causes for transsexualism.
By transsexualism, do you mean people who are transgender?
The cause of dysphoria.
The cause of dysphoria? It can be multifarious. There's lots of things that can cause dysphoria.
Sure, but...
Balding can cause dysphoria.
Sexologists say that there are two types.
Do they?
Of male transsexual.
Well, you know more than me.
Homosexual transsexual and autogynephile.
Okay, since you brought up views on gender, 100 more sex to ask President Sunday, what was
100 more
Lakin's
social
view
constructs?
on Lakin's
100 more genders? That's what you're... Sorry, go on.
What was Lakin's view on gender? Can you describe it for us?
Do you just pronounce Lacan?
Lacan. I don't care what it's pronounced like. You
know
what I'm
Lacan's
saying.
view on gender. I read Lacan through Butler and what's his name?
So what's his view on gender? Since you brought it up,
I don't know.
So
I didn't talk about... No, hey, wait. I didn't talk about Lacan's view on gender. I talked about Lacan's view on performativity.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, gang.
Which I don't think is called... I don't know if it's actually called performativity there.
You don't know what performativity means, it seems.
I had a direct quote.
I don't know if it's responsible for me to platform you when you're this drunk, Sunday. I'm really curious.
Oh, you've been platforming when I was drunk every single time. I've been
not this drunk, buddy. Not this drunk.
He's acting drunker so that people look back on it and they're like, "Oh, Lav didn't really win. Sunday was just drunk."
Maybe.
Exactly.
$5 more from Fairy Queen to ask, why wouldn't you support transgender identities if you wish to abolish gender? Don't transgender identities provide a catalyst for abolition?
No, they give them merit.
Can you elaborate on that a little bit? How does transgender identities give gender merit?
Because if you say that you can become a woman, if you can become a thing, if you can become a female or likeness of a female or in the same class as female, if you perform these certain things, it means that they become reality, right? It means that in legislation you are protected under woman if you're just a man who enacts this gender role, which is a list of stereotypical, arbitrary rules, right? This is what the hope is for gender abolition, is that there are two sexes, and that sex doesn't matter, right? So that there are accommodations based on the biological realities of sex, being like obviously pregnancy and obviously, male aggression, but that besides that, a woman can be butch, a woman can be masculine, a woman can be a doctor, an astronaut, also a mother, also a nurse, also all of these things, and that does not make her anything but just what she is, a woman, right? The same thing goes for man, that a man can be so many things, and performing a set of rules does not make him anything else. There are just realities, and we do away with whatever is harmful in that aspect. I think people would, especially most progressives, would say that gender roles are regressive, but somehow we have rationalized them in the scope of affirming transgender identity, and I think it is very silly.
If there are any other questions from the audience, please get them ready, but I'm going to allow them to make their closing
I've got
statements.
some super chats. Chats.
Please.
Somebody wants you to talk about Dungeons and Dragons.
You being me or Lav? Or...
You. Wait. No, that's better. Lav. No, you.
I've always really wanted to play Dungeons and Dragons, but I've never had any friends who wanted to do it with me.
Wick, can we do a Sunday show where we play Dungeons and Dragons with Lav?
If Lav wants me to run a small one-shot for her, I
have to learn. I'd love to learn. We can do
that as a fun little stream.
Let's do it.
If I get enough money, I will monetize the shit out of this. So if you guys want to see something like that, give me money and we'll put on a show for you. Cool.
Beautiful.
Cool. Beautiful. Any other super chats before we get to closings? From any side here?
Let me see quickly.
And thank you for the bit. Oh, Twitch side, thank you for the bits and gift subs. Really appreciate you. I guess while he's getting that ready, gang, if you've liked this content, hit that like and subscribe button if you're on YouTube. If you're on Twitch, hit that follow button. Give me some subs. Reward me for giving you this content. Okay, carry on.
And Som Noir for the $5 asks, Lav, why do you as a feminist, or why are you as a feminist okay with using the R slur? That's not my question.
I think I'm just okay with using it, I guess. I don't know how that pertains. I don't know how that's relevant.
And let's see. If a woman, oh wait, that's for me. Never mind.
A moment.
Babe, I'm in full stream. Get out. No.
I have a couple other super chats from my end, but carry on with yours real quick.
No. It's for me. I'll answer it later.
Sure. $5. Another $5 to ask: can a feral child who grew up without language, without cultural input from society, still have a gender? This is to both of you.
I think gender is something you have to understand to believe that it is true, right? There are things that I mean, certainly if someone's looking at you, if you're on that island and someone is looking at you and they live in, a Western society, they're imposing a gender role compared to how you act, right? But intrinsically, I don't think so. Whereas sex, there is a reality in which you either are someone who, is a person who is able to get pregnant, or you are not, right?
Okay. Same question to you, PresidentSunday.
And can you restate the question for me?
Sure. If a feral child is raised in the wild, can they still have a gender without any societal?
If they're taken out of the wild, or if they remain in the wild. If they remain in the wild, they don't have a gender. Gender is a social category. Okay. If they're taken out of the wild, they may have a social category imposed upon them based on their biological characteristics. In which case.
That's another question for both of you. This is just from me. Is gender something you choose or something that society puts upon you?
I guess both these days.
Something that society puts upon you. If you get to a point where you've become circumspect enough to criticize that, you may be in a position to start performing a role deliberately in contradistinction to that. So, for example, Doe can beat me up about this later, but Doe goes by its and so on and so forth. Doe did not become its identity by any societal pressure actually acts against it, things like that. One of the consequences of having like discourses that criticize the status quo is that we create new bubbles in which you can have like new meanings and new gender categories and things like that. And so the range of like viable options in terms of socially meaningful self-identities or identifications expands.
Got you. Okay, let's get to closing statements, and then we'll kind of wrap it up.
Are we gonna take questions?
Yes, if from the audience, if you want to, if you're both okay with that. After
I'm really
the closing
tired.
statements, we're gonna open it up for people to come on. So if you're not a member of my Discord, join the Discord, accept the rules, and we will get you in. We'll probably take you one at a time to provide the chaos to a minimum, at least at first. But Daniel Brockman, thank you for the 50 secs, but I don't know if that's appropriate to ask. Maybe.
Well, what is it? Come on.
Okay,
Ask
ask
Lav
Lav.
if a sex worker who is not able to become pregnant and is raised in the wild can still have a post-structuralist view of gender performativity. Well, who's to say? What does understand mean? What is a view? What is a view?
I mean,
really?
you're asking these aren't like deep philosophical questions that people have written books about. Like these are really interesting, difficult questions that
I know that it's interesting, but it's also it's a luxury to engage in conversation.
Once again,
like
I anybody can check this out. In fact, I recommend, in an odd twist of fate, that you check out Tom Fuller's channel, in which Lav confesses that she did not read any of Butler whatsoever, but justifies her supposed knowledge of performativity by reference to stuff she's read elsewhere in unnamed sources. You have not read this material. Why would you assume that you know what the stakes are, or what the level of interest is in these, or the relevance to this conversation? I ask this sincerely.
I understand you
because one of the things that's really frustrating about this, just taking you seriously for one split second,
sure,
is that you actually seem to have like an apparatus back here that works. You seem to be not like brain dead. You're wrong about
that means
everything.
so much coming from you,
and your judgment is terrible. But like you could actually choose to engage positively with this stuff, contribute to it, and benefit from it massively. I don't understand why you choose instead to make an absolute fool of yourself. I mean, look, when you're being schooled on critical and constructivist theory by one of Chudlogic's mods, I don't know how somebody ends up in that position. It's sad.
I don't think anyone.
It just seems like such a waste. You're not stupid. I don't know why you do it.
I don't think anyone with an understanding of gender who lives in reality would think that I was schooled by one of Chudlogic's mods. I know, and this is what I was going to say, was that you have the luxury of
everyone.
Sunday. You have the luxury of really indulging in this post-structuralist, nothing is real attitude, because you sit as a white man in your house, benefiting from the fruits of benefiting from the fruits of that. I'm sure that you went to college. I'm sure that you're at least slightly affluent in your.
I think a little bit over 50% of college applicants are female right now. Actually.
You are able to indulge in stuff like this that is very highly intellectual. You are allowed to do it, and you're allowed to drink your wine.
Are you not? Are you impeded from reading? I'm confused.
No, I read these things, but I understand that I still need to live in reality. I have a message. You want to look smart.
I have a smaller income and a smaller following than you. What's your excuse?
You want to look smarter than everyone, and that's why you read these things.
I really don't. That's why I get drunk on stream and put an octopus on my head.
I want to apply these real ideas to reality, to help women, to help people, to create legislation, to make a cultural
If you wanted to help women, why on earth did you choose as your main point of affiliation Mr. Girl, who publicly proclaims almost as a braggart that he raped somebody?
Every single time I have gone on Max's channel, I have.
Are you going to disavow him now? Is that where we're at?
I've been very critical in opposition to most things he had said. The last stream.
So naturally, your next decision was to live with him, right?
Okay.
Live with him.
Okay.
Did you not?
What?
Yeah, I don't know.
He calls you his adoptive daughter. What even is that?
No, he's just my older friend, and he doesn't.
He's your older friend. Is that what we're calling them these days?
What is okay? Enough.
What is going on?
Enough of this. I don't know what this is exactly, but it's.
Oh my god.
We're going to get to closings, and then we're going to open it up. So what
Hey,
wonderful
very
things will
quickly.
my audience ask?
One
I
sec,
don't know.
one sec.
We're going to find out. Oh.
One sec. Loner Box, I wasn't happy that you got banned, you dumb idiot. I was confused.
I don't care what you talk to Loaderbox on your own time. Loaderbox isn't here.
Now.
Okay. Enough. We're going to get to closing statements, and then we're going to open it up to the audience. And I see you guys. Didymus asks for $5. Lav, trans people wish to have their bodies more like that of the other sex and don't necessarily rely on gender stereotypes. That's not really a question. $20, 20 sex from Daniel Brockman to ask Lav what postmodern neo-Marxism is.
You just say sec. You don't say sex.
I'm saying sex. It's funny. But I want to get to closing statements. So we're gonna start. We're gonna start this time with Lav, and then we're gonna go Sunday. Lav, give us your closing. Close us out.
Yeah, it is important to keep a woman as a defined sex class. It is important to define what a woman's body is and what it, is to be in legislation to protect women who are, predated upon by the bigger, stronger sex class. And gender roles should be meaningless to us. They should not create reality. We should do away with them. We should scoff at them. We should laugh at them, and we should move on.
Okay, Sunday, close us out.
Nitwit blubber augment tweak.
Okay, 100 more sex from Daniel Brockman. Serious question.
So much sex.
Ask Lav what it means that she is Mr. Girl's daughter, which he has obviously repeated 1,000,000 times.
I think that Max really wants me to feel comfortable and that he's not. I think Max has picked up on the fact that I often feel sexualized in my relationships with men, and that I feel very uncomfortable because of that. I think by him putting that boundary there, it sort of asserts that I can feel comfortable, that he's taking a mentor role, that it's not in a strange sexual way, and that he is substantially older than me. He's 4 years younger than my mother. So it is it is what it is. He's not actually my dad.
Not biologically your dad. Okay.
I mean, he could be.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Okay, with that,
what
gang,
is biologic? What is biology really?
If you want to ask either of these lovely individuals a question, right? There's a couple ways to do that. You continue giving me money, which I encourage, but you can also
encourage it.
You can also come on the show. So if you join my Discord and you jump backstage, we'll bring you on and you can ask your questions, and we'll keep you on until you don't entertain me anymore, and then we'll kick you out. So $10 from Muda Agarwal to ask Lav, should the punishment for a violent crime by a man...
I gotta pee. I'll be right back.
That's fine. By a man against a woman be higher than the crime for man versus man? If not, what is the protection you've seen from women against men? You seek from women against men?
No, I don't think that it should be higher against a woman.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that violence is violence. And then if not, what is the protection you see for women against men? I think single-sex spaces, I think making a shift to really, really assert that men and women are different, obviously. I think that there's a lot of liberals talk about, a lot of liberal feminists are like, well, if you don't want a man to hit you, you shouldn't hit him. We should acknowledge that a man hitting a woman is more grave, and so a man should be way more socially, shamed into hitting a woman, because it does more. So.
Okay. Avat Tom, is that your name? You're live?
Oh, I'm live.
You're live. Ask your question. What do you got for us?
Okay. Okay, sorry, I had to click out of that.
It's okay. Your time to shine, buddy.
Okay, here's my question. Okay, I'm live right now, right? Yeah. So if a woman is an adult human female, where we're basically saying that the category of woman is just based on the sex of the person, then should trans men be allowed in women's spaces, particularly passing trans men like 𝕵𝖎𝖎𝖙 and people like that?
Yes.
Okay. Sunday,
What was the
do you have
question?
the same opinion?
I just came in. What was the
So
question?
the question was if
I'll repeat it.
yeah, please repeat it.
If the definition of a woman is adult human female, should passing trans men be allowed in women's spaces such as women's crisis centers? I'm thinking of someone like 𝕵𝖎𝖎𝖏.
If women means adult human female, that's a premise I deny.
Okay,
Depending on what is meant by female. So I also assert that female is itself also a gendered category. I think when you're in a society or in a cultural situation in which sexual designations are taken to imply certain things in certain contexts, I think when we're talking about this, it might make sense to do something to ameliorate the situation where people are going to have gendered responses to the presence of certain things as well. So it becomes a bit complicated. It's a good question. I don't know.
Okay. Well, thank you. Anything else? Any other questions for the two of them?
Can I get Lav to answer that?
She
I
said
did.
yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
But
so I'd like to follow up on that then.
Then go ahead.
Should passing trans women be allowed in women's spaces? Someone like
No.
Blair White.
No.
So, do you think that in that case, if you're in a women's crisis center, who would make the cis women more uncomfortable? Someone like 𝕵𝖎𝖏𝖏 or someone like Blair White being in there?
I guess that is it's completely subjective.
But what do you think?
I have no idea.
I'm Googling 𝕵𝖎𝖏𝖏
I have
really
no
quickly.
idea. Like, that's just impossible to say.
Oh,
And also,
that guy, yeah.
when you say passing trans women, it means very little to me. I've never not been able to clock a trans woman before. Most women evolutionarily are able to perceive trans women. We are better at naming trans women because we are more perceptive biologically.
Have you seen like what 𝕵𝖎𝖏𝖏 looks like?
Yes, I have seen what 𝕵𝖎𝖏𝖏 looks like.
So you can tell at sight that 𝕵𝖎𝖏𝖏 has a vagina?
I said trans women. Trans women. So
But you can't tell...
women are biologically wired to perceive threat, right? We all are. So,
citation needed. How the hell have you...
I'll give
how
you
about,
one.
how about 𝕏𝙁? 𝕏𝙁 looks like a cis woman. I don't believe for 1 second that you looked at 𝕏𝙁 for the first time and thought...
I guess I don't know with 𝕏𝙁 because, well, I think I'm
Are you
not going to
serious?
be,
The conversation we're having was precipitated by me responding to 𝕏𝙁 saying that trans women are men. Did you not know who you were responding to?
No, I'm saying one, I don't want to be disrespectful and name all the things that I clocked about 𝕏𝙁, but also the first time I was introduced to 𝕏𝙁, it was a picture of her penis.
Oh,
so,
okay.
So,
but clearly though, what about her facial features signals male to you? Are you insane?
I don't think that's entirely appropriate to talk about.
Coward. Come on.
No, I don't.
You've been denying her identity this entire conversation. Now all of a sudden you're worried about decorum?
𝕏𝙁 knows it's male. 𝕏𝙁 knows that she's a man.
𝕏𝙁 is conceptually mistaken.
𝕏𝙁. Would you be able to clock 𝕵𝖎𝖏𝖏 on the street?
Maybe not 𝕵𝖎𝖏𝖏, no.
Okay. No, because 𝕵𝖎𝖏𝖏's not a threat. Penis
to
is
the
a
average
threat
cis
raise.
woman, someone like 𝕵𝖎𝖏𝖏, a trans man that is passing, would just look like a man. And I just don't believe that that wouldn't make a cis woman uncomfortable in a woman's crisis center.
You're right. It wouldn't. But then if 𝕵𝖎𝖏𝖏 was then like, oh, don't worry, I'm a female, I have a vagina, I'd be like, oh, okay. You're a female.
What if I said that? 𝕵𝖎𝖏𝖏 looks more like a man than I do. What if I said that?
Thank you for coming.
If you had a vagina, then
we're gonna let you go.
Just one real thing. I just don't believe Lav.
Okay.
In her answer. But, okay. Goodbye.
Live, laugh, lie. Live, laugh, lie, baby.
To the void. Okay. Next contestant on this wonderful game show that we're playing right now, Admiral Love. I don't know if he is an actual admiral. I don't know if this is stolen valor, but let's bring him on.
But do they actually love? That's the question.
Good question, Admiral Love. You're live.
Hey everyone, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
What you got?
How are you?
Hey everyone. So I wanted Lav maybe to address something that President Sunday had said in passing, kind of on the notion of post-structuralism, or the idea that a concept might be socially constructed. I think Lav kind of jumps straight to that not being real. And I think that those are two very different things. To say something is like maybe formed through
I
how
I
we
didn't
deal with
say
concepts with each other.
I didn't say that that wasn't real. There are certainly aspects of like, there's certainly language that makes things real, right? Like saying, okay, I now pronounce you man and wife. Now you are man and wife, right? Or like there are certainly things that in tangent with reality make things so, but there are also just things that exist outside of social construction of them.
Right. Yeah, and to loop that back to transgender as a concept, there's going to be instances where um, somebody who's transgender um, has transitioned so well that like without like knowing their back history, you're not even going to clock them at all as actually having
And good
been
for
a man.
them.
Yeah, so
And yeah.
that to me feels like real. Like I would call that like real in every sense, right?
No, that still would not make them a female or a woman.
Because that's
It would just
postmodern theology, right, Lav?
yes, it would
Gobbledygook.
just that is literally Judith Butler's
You're
whole
an
thing.
atheist. You don't follow that
Yeah,
amaterialistic
no,
woo.
I still
Explain to
think
me
that
why that isn't real. If like everything phenomenally about this like hypothetical person just like
because definitionally, a female, a woman is a female, an adult human female.
see,
And
now
so
I
that
think you're being less real because now you're referring to a complete abstraction, this kind of abstract definition that needs to be upheld rather than like what I'm looking at right in the
what
face.
abstract definition are you talking about?
What you just referenced, you just said definitionally they wouldn't be a woman. But
Okay, they're
like
not a
that
female.
definition is just it's
When
just a bunch of words.
you can call it again, you can call it whatever you want. Like I said, if we want to talk about the fiction, if we want to get caught up in language, you can call a trans woman a woman. The problem is that words influence legislation. They influence society, right? So then if you start to exist in this fiction, trans women can exist in that fiction. I will use preferred pronouns as a
God, she's so
courtesy.
close. It's just crazy. Oh my
Will
God.
use pronoun I will use it as a courtesy. The only problem is that when you are making legislation, when you are creating tangible rules and customs, uh you can't live in this
Wait, customs
post-structuralist
are
view.
tangible now?
Yes, like laws.
Okay.
But don't you see that your stance will lead you to the same really bad tangible results, right? Like so for example with the prison thing, like there are gonna be people who have transitioned from male to female and
Well, you can't transition from
they're
male to
gonna be like
female.
maybe they're very physically weak and and maybe or like maybe they would be in far more danger in a men's prison than they would pose the threat to women in a women's prison, right? So now
It's impossible to measure
your
that.
your kind of strict adherence to this textbook definition is going to create the bad
Oh, so
tangible results that you don't
no. So
want, right? You're being less
no.
real, in other words.
No, so I know when we talk about an individual trans person being an offender or potentially causing harm to women, it's like a losing discussion. You can bring up any example, any trans woman you meet off the street, but when we are making laws, when we're making prescriptions for who ought to be in a woman's prison, we have to think about generalities, right? So we know that trans women have the same criminality patterns of any other man. You would not put any man inside of a female prison. You wouldn't.
Yeah,
So
I don't know,
I
but I
don't
think we
understand.
should do
I don't
that on a case by
understand.
case
I don't
basis. But I
understand.
think the policy should be on a case by case basis. You assess
I
whether
do
or not.
not. And that can be true. And if you deem a trans woman to be in danger in a male prison, you could just isolate them from general pop. You can just put them in a different sect of the prison. That should not be women's problem. But trans activists aren't happy with that because you need to adhere to the doctrine completely or else they are not happy. A trans woman needs to be a woman. She cannot be safe away from people who are hurting her. She needs to then be a woman. It's ridiculous. You're
Okay.
forcing it on women.
Okay, we have a bit of a line.
Okay.
Admiral Love. Did you get
Thanks, I
what you
appreciate it,
needed to
guys.
do out? Did you get what you
Great.
needed to get out?
No, yeah, that's a good talk. I appreciate it.
Of course. I'll see you later. To the void. That's where
I
they
have
all go.
gas. I
To
might
the
be
void.
farting a bit.
Do what you need to do, right?
It's very ladylike.
Does that make you less of a woman, right? When you fart? Right?
According to Sunday, yes.
Next guest. Hello.
Hello, hello, hello.
Hello, can you hear me? Check.
Yes.
Check.
Yeah, what
Hello.
you got for us?
Question for Lav.
Oh,
Your version
course.
of gender abolition kind of stops at male and females performing other roles. Why doesn't it stop at just people doing whatever they want without any social scrutiny? Why does it stop
It
kind
doesn't.
of arbitrarily where you've decided?
That's just completely wrong. That's literally the antithesis of what my gender abolition is. There is a reality and you can act in any, and it doesn't have to be in accordance to that reality.
I thought it was there's a reality. A woman or female or person can do anything they want and still yet be that person. Am I
Yes,
missing something?
a female can do what if a female does a masculine gender role, it does not make her a man. It doesn't make
Correct.
her masculine. She can do whatever we want. We should not have these arbitrary names for actions. Like,
So why are we stopping there is my question.
what do you mean? I'm in a fart.
Do it
God.
in the mic.
You freak.
Not for free. Okay. I am curious to answer the question, right? Why are we stopping there?
I don't know what stopping there means. Like,
What
what
you
else
get-
is
Can
you
there?
you
get what I'm
elaborate
saying?
then?
No, I don't get what you're saying.
Caller, dear caller, can you elaborate on what you mean?
So in Lab's version of gender aberration, we stop at people not performing the roles that society has given them. Lab wants that to be okay, correct?
Yeah, I don't want people to feel like they're forced into behaving a certain way.
Okay. Now, in that same philosophy, why isn't it okay for people to want to perform other gender roles and that be okay?
That I'm saying that we're still talking in the construct of gender roles existing, which is not gender abolition. You're saying, well, why can't they adhere to these gender roles? I don't want the gender roles. I decimate the gender roles.
But
Action
you
should
really do.
not masculine or
No,
feminine.
no. But you really do, because you are still shackling to them to a category of person that is entirely defined by specific sex functions, by specifically being identified by being the
opposite.
carrier of children and the person who stays in the home.
That
Wife
is
man.
a biological. Wait, the person who stays in the home.
Person who stays in the
When
home.
the fuck did I do that? I said that. What? I never
The
said
person who
that.
gets pregnant does not hunt. That is a biological reality. If you're
Is it?
insisting that this is determinative of your gender role and your
How is that a biological reality? On what basis?
that's what I was saying, Lav.
No, that's
Okay.
not what you were saying. You said that the person who gets pregnant does not hunt. Who says?
You do. You're the one who's insisting that sex is a
No.
biological reality, not a categorization scheme. It is a self-gender.
Building a child and there is. I'm talking about reproduction. There is a sex,
but
that
not
carries the
not all
child.
not all
There
people
is
who have
not
the
a sex that
capacity.
at home
Not
as
all
a doting
people.
wife.
Not all people who have the capacity in the abstract to carry a child carry a child, and not all people who have the organs associated with being able to carry a child have the full set of organs required to carry a child, or even to engage in copulation. This does not follow.
But they are of the nature to.
What the hell does that mean, of the nature to you? Mean, I thought you were an atheist. Now you're referring to some kind of teleology. What planet are you on?
We know that there are two types of human, and they
No,
are
we
needed
don't.
to procreate.
No, we don't. In our discourse, we identify two types of human, and we exclude
Okay.
others who break the trend.
Stars.
Okay.
Yes.
Anything else before we let you go?
You let me go. I feel like my question wasn't answered, but thanks for having me.
No. I want this question to be answered. Can you ask it again?
Why does Lab's form of gender abolition stop where it chooses to stop and not go any further than anything else is my fundamental question.
I think I already answered.
I thought it was answered too. Whether it was satisfactorily answered, I don't know. But she did give you an answer, which was she wants to just abolish all genders, right?
Okay.
Okay. I don't know what else to say, but thanks for coming.
Gender abolition would be abolishing the concept of gender, I think.
We have a special guest next.
I have a tummy ache.
Ho, ho, ho. Speak of the devil and she shall appear.
You're live.
Oh, sorry. Hold on. I was still listening. So I'm in here now, huh?
You are live on air. What you got for us?
Okay, so there's a couple of things I want to talk about first. First of all, in this conversation multiple times, very vaguely, there has been reference to this idea that quote unquote trans women have the same crime patterns as men, which to me is like a complete nonsense statement and is not backed up by actually basically anything that I can find. In fact, trans women are, as far as I can tell from statements directly from the U.S. Department of Justice, are actually 2.5 times more likely to be the victims of sexual violence than cis people. So
That
this
is
idea.
also true.
Okay, so that's a bit. You're doing something a little sneaky there, then, by saying that.
Nothing is sneaky.
I think that's very sneaky. I think it's sneaky to say, "Oh yeah, trans women follow the crime patterns of men." What does that even mean? It sounds like what you're trying to say is, trans women are men. They act like men, but in truth, we see that the overwhelming evidence shows that they're actually the victims of crime more than cis men, more than cis women, even.
Do you want me to read you the study?
I mean, you can send me the study if you want to. I don't even know
I'll
which
send it
study
to
you're
you, but
referencing to.
overall, it says, the findings show that transsexual individuals were more likely to be criminal than non-transsexuals of the same birth sex in the first cohort, which is 1973 to 1988, and no different from their birth sex in the second group, 1989 to 2003. Male to female transitioners.
Do you have that citation? Because I would certainly love to look at that. But to me, saying something like "follow the patterns" is a very vague claim, especially when you're saying that using that to be a justification on how the prison system should be structured with regard to where people should be housed. To me, if you had a population of people that are 2.5 times more likely to be the victims of sexual violence, then that would indicate that you would want to have those people kept safe from
Male
that
to female
violence.
transitioners are 6 times more likely to be convicted of an offense than female comparators, and 18 times more likely to be convicted of a
Right,
violent
but
offense.
you're still sort of just reading off, like, I don't know, this could be a study that's done by, I don't know, TPUSA for all I know. We don't even know what this is. You've never even shown it on the screen.
I
You've
mean,
not
no studies
given an
mean anything, right? There's always a way to
I
break
mean, I
down a
don't know what
study,
that's
but I
supposed to
can
mean.
send
And
this
you've
to
said that a
you.
lot. You've said that a lot this stream, and I don't know, it sounds kind of like, to me, and I've just been watching from the outside here,
I
so it
think
just kind of sounds
we
like
have to
coke
share
to
a
me.
server.
Like you keep saying,
Oh
like,
yeah, just real quick, you need perms to share your screen, and I don't want to give any of you perms in my server.
that's fine. You don't need to give me them.
You can look up. You can just Google trans criminality, gender equality law.
I've done that, and I've done that pretty extensively. This is a conversation I've had many times, and it doesn't seem to reflect what you're implying it reflects. Now, it could very well be that you've found a study that I don't know. I find some really interesting studies on PragerU's website. A lot of times they even cite their own videos. It's super interesting. But yeah, I mean, I think
This is UK Parliament. So
okay, so the UK Parliament, and that still doesn't explain why you would come to the conclusion that
Professor Rosa Friedman, Professor Kathleen Stock, and Professor
none
Alice
of that
Sullivan.
none of that means anything to anyone. It just sounds like you're sort of saying a professor did something.
Well, actually, Kathleen Stock has a bit of a
point is-
reputation. Demon.
Yeah,
yeah.
Kathleen Stock is a lesbian who is against this whole gender shit.
Sure, that's great. But like I said, as far as even here in the U.S., we've been having a lot of this conversation is centered around the U.S. Again, trans women are more likely, significantly, notably 2.5
That's true,
times more
and I
likely
think that
to
they
be the
should
victim.
be. I think that they should be isolated
Right,
from
so
from general population, and I also think that there's something to be said
that's
about the male rape problem in men's prisons. I think that we should be
that's
way
great.
more diligent about finding, trying to stop
That's
rape
great.
in
It just
prisons. But
seems.
that
It
should
just
not.
seems.
Women should not be collateral in fixing that problem. It should not be
Well, no
women's
one is
problem.
asking. I mean, that's
They
your
are.
own addition here.
Would you
You're
not?
saying
Would you
that
not simply be happy with
it's
trans
weird
women
to
being
me.
isolated from general population?
I mean, I think there's other problems that come along from isolating any population, and I also have
To
general
keep them
problems with
safe?
prisons. What I'm trying to point out here is that I think that it's interesting that your
You want to isolate
conclusion.
them from other males in women's prisons.
Sorry.
Why is it not enough to just isolate them on their
No, hold on. I think you're misunderstanding what I'm saying here. What I came on here to point out is that your fixation on women's prisons, on protecting women, is in service of you ultimately trying to make the argument that trans women are men, and not that we
trans
haven't
women are
heard you.
men?
We haven't heard you this entire conversation. We haven't heard you talk about, oh yeah, they should have. We actually need to protect trans women from the violence that they're doing. No, instead, it's perpetually fixated around your desire to
I'm a
frame trans
feminist.
women as men. It's interesting. It's just a very interesting little bias
It
there.
would
And then all
make
of a
sense
sudden,
that I am
and then all of a sudden,
You're not really, you're not
pro-female. I'm a
really, you're not
feminist.
really, you're not really much
And
of
then
a
all of a
feminist though.
sudden-
You're really just a masculinist
When-
with extra steps.
when you're confronted with
true.
the fact, the overwhelming statistics that actually trans women are actually predominantly the victims of violence. In fact, I mean,
Predominantly the victims of violence?
yes, 2.5 times more likely than cis people to be the victim of violence. Yes, trans
That's
women
not
are.
predominantly. Women are still. First of all, I mean, actually, it's men. Actually, men are predominantly the victims of
Okay.
violence in
I
general,
see.
right?
To me,
But
it
then
seems
after
like
it's
what
women, and
you're
then
looking
after
to
it's
do-
trans
See,
women.
what it seems like to me is that what you're willing to do is basically throw aside any sort of humanitarian or humane considerations when you get to sound I don't know, maybe it just comes off a little memey, like you're trying to like fit a role
You're
or
definitely saying a
something.
lot of words.
Oh yeah. Well, so are
Too
you.
bad I'm not reading them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're definitely saying a lot of
Yeah.
words.
So there's the first one. The second
Feminism,
one-
the advocacy for women's rights on the basis of equality of the sexes. So
Okay, I don't know what that's supposed to
I'm
mean.
a feminist. I am a feminist
Congratulations,
Sunday.
you read
So
Webster's
from a
dictionary or something?
feminist
Is that
lens,
a
of
own? Is
course,
that
right?
an
This
own
is
for you? What I'm trying to point out.
You
here,
had a
what
you had
I'm
a second thing. You had a second thing.
I have a
Team
couple
Mama?
of things.
wanna
I
get
had
to
a
that.
couple things I want to talk about. Secondly, is 2 times in this conversation, Ray Blanchard has been invoked, which is very funny
Invoked.
because invoked. Yes, invoked is exactly how I would use it, because that's basically the only way that Ray Blanchard is ever used. Ray Blanchard's severely criticized typology of transsexual behaviors is thoroughly debunked. And I mean, it's been debunked since about.
It hasn't been debunked.
It
In
has
fact, it's been
absolutely-
asserted
It has been
throughout the 19th
I'm sorry, you can
century.
yell as loud as you want, but I came in here to make a statement. This is a topic
He
that I
is
talk
not
about
the only
extensively.
sexologist.
He is not. He's sexology, first of all, is heavily criticized as a pseudoscience. First of all,
So is
just
all
so-
of psychology. So is all of psychology.
No,
No.
actually isn't.
Yeah,
No,
maybe my
actually
L,
isn't.
maybe
Yes,
my
it
L.
is.
Ron
Like,
Hubbard, but no,
it's-
that's not true.
Quoting a sexologist and especially a heavily debunked sexologist like Ray Blanchard, who is whose studies were not useful for any sort of advancement.
What about
of science
Kurt
and have been-
Freund?
I don't know about Kurt Freund off the top of my hand, so I don't really care. I'm here to talk about Ray Blanchard, who you invoked multiple times. You didn't.
Ray Blanchard
You didn't
came
invoke
after
Freund.
Kurt Freund.
I understand that
who
maybe I
auto
understand-
monosexualism.
I understand maybe you're
It's
used
clear
to a
that you don't know a
particular-
lot about
It-
this.
Yes, definitely. I don't know.
What about
yes,
Anne
definitely.
A. Lawrence?
Demon
What about
Mama
Anne
doesn't know
A-
much
what about-
about
What about Anne A.
Ray
Lawrence?
Blanchard. I know about Anne Lawrence. In fact, it's really
Yeah.
funny because I was thinking about Anne Lawrence earlier on in this conversation. Earlier in this conversation, while referencing Ray Blanchard, you actually said something that contradicted both Blanchard and Lawrence, which was that you said that Ray Blanchard had concerns about. I believe you said about certain types of trans people, AGPs, getting access to hormones and getting access to protections. But actually, as much as I hate Ray Blanchard,
I
and
said
as much
that.
as I yes, you did. As much as I
like I was concerned.
Can I
with that.
finish, or are you
I
gonna-
didn't say what Ray Blanchard thought.
Okay. Regardless, Ray Blanchard and Anne Lawrence are both people who actually did support even AGPs identifying and being protected as women. Both of them
Yes,
supported that, which is funny that you would
totally.
invoke them.
But they're
Interestingly,
right
again,
now. But I thought that they've been thoroughly debunked.
interestingly again,
I thought they've been thoroughly debunked. It's interesting
excuse
how you
me,
use this. You give this part merit.
that doesn't follow. I don't think that.
I
don't
thought
think
they
you
were
know what you're
thoroughly
talking.
debunked.
Ray Blanchard has been thoroughly debunked. Ray Blanchard
By
being
who?
debunked
By who?
by the entire medical consensus. By
So
literally,
so
if
surely it
you
would be
follow,
easy to name a couple doctors.
yeah, in
Psychiatrists
fact,
even.
sure. If you want me to name an institution that debunked Ray Blanchard, you can talk. You can go directly to Johns Hopkins, one of the most respectful. And interestingly, just a point in your favor, Johns Hopkins has, as of recently, engaged in what I would consider to be some problematic and not entirely scientific engagements on gender things, and
Are you a scientist?
they still debunked Ray Blanchard.
Are you
I
a
know
scientist?
that.
Hey, Lav, just
I'm not.
very quickly.
Are you a scientist?
Just very quickly, DM.
No,
Lav,
but I
Lav.
don't.
Okay,
I
then
don't
who cares? Then shut the
say
fuck up.
anything.
The only thing I care
Lav-
about is I'm a
you like to
wizard.
talk.
Okay.
You like to talk a lot, but you don't seem to like to actually pay attention to the things that you're reading a lot or do
Okay.
very deep research. And I want to point out, additionally,
One more thing, Demon Mama. We do have a little bit of a line. We do have a little bit of a line, but I want to give you some space, so you get one more point, and then we'll move on. Go ahead.
Just a word to the wise. Just a word to the wise. No, go on, please.
I just want to point out that in both of these cases, your purpose in bringing these things up was not to engage in good faith with what was said or
It
with
never is,
critiques
yeah.
of those scientists. No, it wasn't. It was
Yeah.
only to support a one-sided narrative in which you stand on your platform and proclaim that trans women are men. And it's very funny that that's how it is, that you will utilize statistics in an incredibly slanted manner, also leaving out the all other context, including the fact, like I said, the first one is a real interesting one, that you make this argument about how, oh yeah, we need to lock up these predatory people in these prisons. Oh, we need to get these men out of here. But then you ignore the fact that trans women are actually the victims of crime.
What is a man?
More often than they are.
What is a man, Demon Mama?
A miserable pile of
that's for you
Victoria's
to deal with. That's the question you got to deal with in this conversation.
No, what
I'm
is a
here just bringing
man?
up some interesting things. What is a man? There is
Yeah,
no
you said that
single
trans
answer.
women. You said that trans women. There's no single answer. But
Yeah,
if
do
you
you
had
want me to finish? This is something that you've done a lot in this conversation. I've noticed is that you like to do this little smug anime laugh after you ask a question and then don't let somebody finish. It's like very off-putting.
Go ahead, finish.
Generally,
Answer the
but
question then.
yeah, sure. I don't think that there is a single definition for what a man is. However, what I think a man is, what my definition is I think I go by self-identity. I think a man is somebody who identifies as a man, and I think it's that simple. And I think the reason for that, if we want to go,
I identify as a man. I'm a man.
Congratulations! I'm very happy for you.
Thank you.
Did you
Okay,
think that
wonderful.
Was an own? Wait, did you think that was an own?
I would love to have a
I
more
don't think it
in-depth
is.
conversation between you two at some point. I think it would be interesting to have a debate between you and Lav as well. But
Do it. Do it.
Oh, it looks like John Hopkins cites Ray Blanchard, doesn't debunk him.
When was it in the 70s? Because that would be super interesting. That'd be funny. Yeah, anyway, yeah, Ray Blanchard has been thoroughly debunked by every serious scientific organization that has written anything about sex or gender, and I mean that. I mean that. His study, his typology has not been cited in any way, shape, or form since like the early 90s, which is like 4 years after it was published. The initial research that he did for that was grossly unscientific, and there was even ethical concerns with his own involvement with his own test subjects. So anybody out there, I understand that Lav wants to present a very, very specific message to support her prescriptions and whatever.
So do
That's
you.
fine. That's fine. So do most anti-trans demagogues out there.
So do
not
most people.
No, but anti-trans demagogues have a particular like to lie about science. Yeah, okay. I think demagogue fits here, especially with the anime laughing.
That's pretty cool.
But yeah, just for anybody out there who's actually interested in science and who wants to consider themselves like a serious interlocutor on any of these topics, anybody who, as Lav said, cares about the future, cares about making the world a better place, I encourage you to genuinely introspect and actually engage with all of the science that has happened since 1984 or 86, I can't remember, when Ray Blanchard's bunk typology. Also, actually, if you're at all scientifically like at all, go read the typology and you tell me you think that's scientific at all. It's one of the most laughable. It's like it reads like gender fan fiction.
Okay.
Anyway, that's all I have to say for now. So
Demon
have fun,
Mama,
everybody.
thank you. I appreciate
It
you
was
coming on, and-
lovely to see you coming in, Demon
and
Mama.
we
Yeah.
will see you later.
Problem. See ya.
To the void. All of them go to the same
I
place.
think there's a beautiful draconian mission to silence anyone who goes against this gender doctrine. I know that Demon Mama is one of these people.
It's all
and that
part
was-
of the plan.
That was interesting. It was interesting. I mean, when you come in and you just are like, you're mean, it's like, okay, I don't care. You know what I mean? Trying to protect women.
Lav, a
So-
word to the wise. A word to the wise. The whole like, can you name the study thing? Can you name the book thing? That's a good gotcha when you're trying to pinpoint that somebody doesn't have actual conversance or familiarity with material that they are implicating in a very big claim. Don't do that with people like Demon Mama who actually do their fucking research. It's not going to go
It
well
seems that Demon Mama has not done any research.
for you. Demon Mama has done
Okay.
more research than me.
Yeah, Demon Mama doesn't know who Kurt Freund is.
I think
I don't know
having
who Kurt Freund is. I
a
don't-
discussion on self-ID, right, would be an interesting one with Demon Mama, and I'd love to have her on for that discussion
He
sometime. But that
invented
discussion
what
is
would
not today.
become known as autogynephilia, automonosexualism. This is throughout the 19th century.
And
This has
you
been-
who haven't been interested enough to even read like the basic writings of Butler are suddenly interested in this for no reason.
Butler is a
whatsoever, I'm sure.
theorist. Butler is a post-structuralist
What you're describing
theorist.
is theory, my friend. That is theory.
Yes.
Do you know what
Sometimes
theory is?
Sometimes
Do
there's
you know what theory
reality,
is?
and sometimes there's theory.
No,
right?
no, you don't know what theory. What do you think theory means? I'm
Theory
asking
is
this in all
it's
seriousness.
thoughts. It's thoughts.
No, it's not
It's
thoughts.
thought-
Theory is not thoughts.
Yes.
You're frozen, Lav.
Nope.
Theory is thought.
Oh, Discord
Theory
just
is
hiccuped.
not. Theory is not thought. Sorry.
Okay.
Who's the green person?
We have another interlocutor here who would like to ask a
The
question.
general ideas or principles.
Lactoid, you were live.
Hi, friends. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
You're
Alright,
up. What do you got for us?
So I got a question for you, Lav, and then if I have
got an answer
time,
for
I
you.
also got a question for you, Sunday.
Oh no.
So I want to comment very quickly because this is relevant to the question on some things that were said by the prior caller. I've seen the data, Lav, that you were referencing, and it is absolutely true that the propensity to commit crime is consistent post-transition among trans women. And I understand that because of this, you wouldn't want to put, just I guess generally, trans women or men into women's prison because you stated that the criminality trend carries and you want to protect women. Is that a pretty fair summary of your position?
Yeah, I also just believe in classifications of things, and I believe in useful and helpful segregation to keep populations safe.
Great. So my question for you then is that given that black people commit violent crime in the
I
U.S.
knew where you
at
were going with this, I'm sorry.
much
Of
higher
course,
rights,
Yeah.
are you also in favor of segregating prisons by race in order to help protect white people?
This is very very often I get asked this question, and it's fucking ridiculous. The reason why racism and racists exist is because they think that there are distinct differences between black people and white people. There are none. This has been debunked. There are no distinct differences, right?
I mean, some of them are black and some of them are white, Lav. I mean, are you colorblind?
Sure.
You can see this, can't you?
There are distinct differences between the sexes. Like I said earlier, 90% of one can kill 90% of the other with their bare hands. There are obviously distinct differences between the sexes. What you're asking is it what the question becomes is it okay to sometimes segregate? Is it okay to discriminate sometimes? And I'd say yes. If we get more good, then we get harm, right? So there's a reason why pedophiles aren't allowed to work with children. That's still segregation. That's still discrimination, right? But these people could potentially hurt the children. And so we decide that we are able to take this liberty away from them, right?
I want to clarify if I can. So is what you're saying that even if we have data that demonstrates that one demographic is much more likely to commit violent crime, you're saying this is irrelevant because there's no like biological difference?
Hey Wick, I have to. I just very quickly. I apologize. I have to remove myself in like 5 minutes, so I'm gonna have to probably leave after this next guest.
Okay. Thank you for being here. We'll close it out after this one. And we'll just call it good. So
Sounds good.
Blacktoid.
I can re-ask the question because it sounds like is.
I have the answer.
Okay, go ahead.
So the problem again is that men not only have a propensity to do more crime in general, but to also do crime against women, right? Black people are not targeting, and there is not an epidemic where Black people cannot stop targeting white people, and they don't have any systemic power, right? So if it was so that Black people were showing higher levels of crime, they were seen to, be systemically more powerful than white people, and they targeted white people, of course we would want to protect white people. That is just not what is happening, obviously.
Okay, and even if it was, let's say we did segregate by race, and you saw rates of prison victimhood among white people drop, would you then continue to support?
I'd also a lot of people bring up this Black crime statistic, and the problem with this is that they don't take into account Black women. Black men are committing most of the crimes and the Black crime rate, right? So it is still men who are creating this crime. It is not Black women.
So we can debate that. Actually, there's data to suggest that Black women are actually have a higher propensity for violent crime than white men. But I have that data. We can talk about that later.
We can talk about that later. I'd love
off
to
topic.
see it.
One question I have for you, Sunday, is
Sure.
Let's say we did integrate prisons and we saw like a pretty significant rise in like sexual assault and pregnancies within prison. Would there be a point in which you would say, look, we have to keep them segregated? There's no way we can have this.
If we suddenly found that, if we desegregated prisons and we suddenly found like a sudden rise in sexual assault and pregnancy and things like that,
yeah,
we would need some kind of redress if that's what that entails, and that's what that entails. I think your primary issue here is with the prison system itself. Like, once again, and this is the question I posed to Lav, if you have like a lesbian, for example, who is in jail for sexual assault, that person's going to be eminently more dangerous to the cis women around them than a trans woman who is attracted to men. So it doesn't really bear on the question of the debate. This is a pragmatic question. It's an interesting question. I don't know how to answer that at this time.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Blacktoid, always a pleasure. We'll see you later. To the void. Sunday, I know you have to go. Is there anything else you want to say to the audience before we let you
go? Actually, I was really pleasantly impressed with the quality of the questions. I think they were quite good.
My community is based.
Wick, I think you did a fantastic job moderating. Did I actually end up taking 10 minutes? I think that I feel like it was shorter than it did not. What did it end up being roughly? Did you were you timing it?
Maybe
2?
3.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
I didn't time it.
It felt longer writing it. Time is a social construct after all. Lav, all touching aside, thank you for not ducking out of this one at the last minute for once. Godspeed.
For once.
Thank you for not running away, Sunday.
What if I ran out of a debate?
You typically run before the debate.
I don't think that's true. When?
Well, I think the last panel, I think you were supposed to be on with me, wasn't it, Wick? You ducked at the last second.
Oh, what he's referring to is when after the Mr. Girl report
remember.
came out, I invited you on, and you decided you didn't
Oh,
want to
yeah.
talk about it.
Yeah.
Hey, by the by, very, very quickly, what's your opinion on that?
My opinion is that all of you guys are fucking losers. Leave me alone. Let me live.
I mean that might be a fair point. Sunday, thank you for being here. We'll see you later, buddy. He goes to the void. Is there anything? Well, first of all, we do have one more caller that hasn't got a question. Do you mind if he comes in asking you, or are you good? Are you?
Who is it?
Admiral Gibbs.
Yeah, I'll talk to Admiral Gibbs.
Okay, another Admiral, the second one, right? Admiral.
Hey, how y'all doing?
What you got for us? If you had a question for Sunday, if you were the one person who had a question for Sunday, I am sorry, right?
I did have a question for Sunday.
Oh, well, fuck.
But it's all right. I mean, I feel like I already know.
I can pretend to be him.
I mean, I kind of think I already know what you're going to say about this. I was going to relation to sports in regards to what you think we should be doing with the sports issue with male to female transition athletes competing in sports, because there doesn't seem to be a problem with female to male transition athletes competing in sports. In fact, most major sports don't have any kind of rule stopping anybody, anybody who's transitioned in general, from going into a major league. How do you feel about people going into sports, like into women's sports? And do you think it's dangerous or injuring women as a whole?
I mean, yeah, it's certainly dangerous when you talk about things like contact sports that, a man can, like I said, 90% of one can kill 90% of the other with their bare hands. Definitely dangerous when in regards to like MMA contact sports. It gets a little dicey around non-contact sports, but still, I think that they should be sex segregated. We know that grip strength, bone density, muscle strength is so different. It's so different in men to women that we might as well be a different species. That the difference in generalities between the strength between the sexes. So yeah, I think it's entirely inappropriate for any man or really any trans man to be with men, because they could potentially get hurt. Any female could get hurt, and so it should be sex segregated. And
All
also,
right, yeah.
just in regards to like opportunities, right? Like opportunity, like a lot of there's still there's still a wage gap in sports, a big wage gap. There's still so few opportunities for scholarships and so few things for affirmative action with women that should still go to females.
Okay. Gibbs, anything else for us?
No, yeah, I mean, I kind of thought that was going to be the opinion. So,
Noted. Okay.
all
We'll
right,
see you
how's it
later.
going?
Okay.
All right.
It's been an interesting discussion. Thank you for coming. I do appreciate you.